Thank you for joining the Beaverton City Council. Before we do our official calling the meeting to order, we're going to swear in our three newest city councilors with us tonight. So they'll be able to join us at the dais for the official swearing in. So tonight we are swearing in Councilor Duggar and Councilor Teeter and virtually swearing in Council President Hartmeyer Prigg for their terms in office. I think this is a monumental day for the city. We are seating a city council that has the ability to serve together for quite some time. We have a couple years, thankfully, until our next election in the city, and those following along in Beaverton city politics with the change of charter and where we're at, we've had a lot of elections happening. So as the mayor, I'm looking forward to some stability with our new councilors joining us. So I think tonight at the start of the new year, it's a great time and to reflect on where we've been. We have one of our outgoing city councilors, or retired, I don't know what we're going to call you now, Mark Sansusi, in the audience to kind of hand over the official powers to everyone else coming in. I think everyone watching should consider tonight hopeful. This council is doing a lot of hard work together. We are committed to council trainings. We've done 2 or 3 together to learn how to work together as a team, to better understand our roles in this form of government. The city manager is joining us tonight and going to be making her selection for her 2 assistant city managers here in the new future. We have a new police chief that's joined us. And so there's a lot of change that is coming forward to tonight and moving forward together. The council will have 2 meetings together before we meet and set our priorities for the year, which will happen in February. And that will be this council's opportunity to tell the community as a whole what we value together. And when we set those goals, there'll be a direction for our city manager to go and direct staff in the direction this council wants to go. I think it's always hard to join midstream when goals are in progress and where we're at. But if you look at the last 2 years and what the city has accomplished, I would say it is meaningful and monumental, and we only have, we're only going up for here. So I'm going to turn it over to the city manager, and we'll conduct the official swearing in.
And I'll pass that baton to Judge Britton, who's here tonight to swear.
Yeah, I think it's Douglas first.
Can you guys, good audio?
Test. All right, please raise your right hand. I, John Duggar,
I, John Duggar,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will uphold and support
that I will uphold and support
the Constitution of the United States of America
the Constitution of the United States of America
and the state of Oregon,
and the state of Oregon,
and the charter and ordinances of the city of Beaverton,
and the charter and ordinances of the city of Beaverton,
and that I will faithfully perform
and that I will faithfully perform
the duties of city councilor
the duties of city councilor
in and for the city of Beaverton
in and for the city of Beaverton
to the very best of my ability.
to the very best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, I'll take this from you. Right. Raise your right hand. I, Kevin Teeter,
I, Kevin Teeter,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will uphold and support
that I will uphold and support
the Constitution of the United States of America
the Constitution of the United States of America
and the state of Oregon
and the state of Oregon
and the charter and ordinances of the city of Beaverton,
and the charter and ordinances of the city of Beaverton,
and that I will faithfully perform
and that I will faithfully perform
the duties of city councilor
the duties of city councilor
in and for the city of Beaverton
in and for the city of Beaverton
to the very best of my ability.
to the very best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. Councilor-elect Hartman Prigg, are you ready?
I'm ready, Judge. Can you hear me?
I can. Raise your right hand. I, Ashley Hartmeyer Prigg,
I, Ashley Hartmeyer Prigg,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will uphold and support
that I will uphold and support
the Constitution of the United States of America
the Constitution of the United States of America
and the state of Oregon
and the state of Oregon
and the charter and ordinances of the city of Beaverton,
and the charter and ordinances of the city of Beaverton,
and that I will faithfully perform
and that I will faithfully perform
the duties of City Councilor
the duties of City Councilor
in and for the City of Beaverton
in and for the City of Beaverton
to the very best of my ability.
to the very best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Judge.
Okay, you're welcome.
All right. It's with my great pleasure that I'm going to call tonight's meeting to order. Will the recorder call the roll?
Yes. Counselor Duggar.
Here.
Counselor Hartmeyer Prigg.
Here.
Counselor Hassan.
Here.
Counselor Kimmy.
Here.
Counselor Teeter.
Here.
Counselor Tivnon.
Here.
Mayor Beatty.
Here. Okay, so our first order of business tonight is to elect the 2023 council president. So how this is going to work is I will open up nominations on the floor. If there is more than one nomination, we'll hear from both candidates for 60 seconds, or 3 candidates, however many we nominate. And we'll hear from both of them and seek consensus and then seek a vote after that. So tonight, do we have any nominations? Councilor Tivnon.
Thank you, Mayor. To kick off the conversation, I would like to nominate Councilor Ashley Hartmeyer Prigg.
Thank you. Councilor Teeter.
I would like to nominate Councilor Hassan.
Okay, so we will hear from both of them for 60 seconds. We'll give the current council president the prerogative of going first.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councilor Tivnon, for the nomination. First, I just want to apologize for not being there with you all tonight. I was so looking forward to us being present together for our first meeting of the year. I would like to continue as council president for a couple reasons. I do believe it's customary for someone to hold the role for 2 years, so a continuation would be natural. We have another year of transition ahead, and I think consistency in this role would be beneficial to the group. Knowing that the mayor will need to miss some meetings this spring, I think I'm the most prepared to chair the meeting in her absence, both by the experience of serving as council president for the past few months and for having served as the chair of the Tualatin Hills Park and Recreation District Board of Directors. So I would be honored to continue serving in this role in 2023. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Hassan.
Thank you. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to be your council president. Some of you know that I've wanted this when I first started on council and even part of last year because I cared deeply about our community, our council, and representation. Our community elected each of us to represent them. As a woman of color, I have the unique experience of understanding how hard systems can be to navigate, so I play in 2 worlds. A world where I'm recognized, valued, and seen, and a world where people who look like me are invisible or feel invisible. As it relates to council, as one of the more seasoned counselors, I believe my expertise, desire for an inclusive council, and hope to offer more transparency to our community set me up for success. I also care deeply that each counselor feels valued and welcome as we sit on the dais and navigate a really hard year and really hard conversations. As a daughter of immigrant parents, I'm my parents' wildest dreams. I believe that deeply representation matters to me, but it also matters to people who look like me. If given the opportunity, I look forward to working very closely with our mayor to build on the relationships that we have cultivated and that we continue to cultivate and nurture a model that is consensus-focused and collective. I appreciate your consideration. I also acknowledge that the decision is really hard. Either way, I'm glad that we bring the maturity and respect for each other to make it together. Thanks.
Thank you. And under the advice of the city attorney, we will take a roll call vote in how people were nominated. So the first person we would consider for nomination, wait, I probably need a second. Well, we need a second, and then we'll move forward with that. So Councilor Tivnon did make a motion. Is there a second to vote on the 2 councilors?
Mayor,
Yes.
you actually do not need a second
Okay,
for the
perfect.
nominations. You can proceed to vote.
Okay. So we'll take Council Hartmeyer Prigg under vote first. So will the recorder call the roll?
Counselor Duggar,
Can I ask a question? This is, if this is yes, then there will not be a vote for Counselor Hassan?
Correct.
Okay. Yes.
okay. Counselor Teeter,
Yes.
Counselor Kimmy,
No.
Counselor Tivnon,
Yes.
Counselor Hassan.
Yes. Sorry, no. Sorry. 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 No.
No, okay, no. Mayor Beatty
Yes.
and Counselor Hartmeyer Prigg.
Yes.
Okay, vote is 5 yes, 2 no.
Thank you. Councilor Hartmeyer Prigg, do you take the nomination to serve as council president? Or
Yes.
take the vote? Yes. All right. Well, thank you, Councilor Hassan. Thank you, Ashley, for both of you being brave and giving your reasons for our community tonight. Councilor Hartmeyer Prigg will serve as our council president until our next vote in January of 2024. Okay, with that, we're going to move on to public comment. Tonight, we'll be starting off with Del Fleek. Yep, you'll have 3 minutes to address the council. Yes, sir.
Mayor Lacey Beatty and other councilors. I'm Dale Feek, spokesperson and chair of the Washington County Citizen Action Network. We've been established since about 2011. I sent you an email already. I sent that email to the chair and the commissioners of the county, and I made public comment about that today at 10 o'clock before them. I also sent the email to the mayor of Hillsborough and the councilors, and also the mayor of Forest Grove and their councilors. I want to have all of you have common information. That's the reason I sent it to all of you. I was so impressed with the Climate Action Task Force that made a presentation. When I looked at it, I recorded it and had it transcribed. And so what I have in the packet to you is that transcription of what maybe I imagine you already listened to. And then also it's a link that I sent to the actual recording, okay? Beaverton is doing something special. Climate is real. Climate disaster is real. And the people on that task force are taking it seriously. They worked very hard for 18 months and came up with a report that you really are considering. And I appreciate you as counselors reacting to what they said to you when you're on the dais. There is a timer, okay, 1 minute and 35 seconds. Also, there's a link in there to John Patterson. I gave all the commissioners, county commissioners, this book, Footprint, A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to Extinction. I gave it to all the mayors and some of the councilors of those cities. I wanted to give all of you one of those, but I found out that I had to give 10 of them, and at $15.95 each, I can't afford it. I'm a volunteer, non-paid person that is an activist. So in that is a link to this book, and so you can actually read it, because I've got permission from John Patterson to distribute the book. He's not trying to make money. He's trying to make it so we have a livable earth to live on. The main thing we have to do is conserve energy. And there are many ways. In his book, he lists 60 ways that you can conserve energy, from very simple things up to solar panels. So the main thing, maybe you can reduce the temperature in a room. That'll decrease the amount of energy used to heat the space. So there are 60 ways in there, and I hope to be able in some time to share this information with the task force. So thank you. I appreciate your leadership, and I hope you'll work with the other cities and the county in being real serious about addressing climate change.
Thank you for joining us this evening. We'll make sure the council gets the links that you forwarded. Next up, Cynthia Lamb Moffitt.
Good evening. Happy New Year. Hi, I'm Cynthia Lamb Moffitt. I'm former chair of Visioning Advisory Committee, former chair of DAB. I'm currently active in Washco Dems and general public school educator. Thank you for granting me this time. I am here tonight to ask you to put the Multicultural Center on council priorities this year. The Multicultural Center has been formally written into the city's DEI plan since 2014 and informally for years prior to that. Beaverton strives to be known as a welcoming city. We have yet to meet this goal because we have yet to properly support the 20-ish% of our residents who are immigrants and refugees. We can truly become a welcoming city if we have articulated services and a location to serve our immigrant and refugee populations. Council President Hartmeyer-Prigg, and Mayor Beatty, I ask that you solidify what you want in a multicultural center this year and direct the necessary funds to make the multicultural center happen. Thank you so much for your time, and look at me under a minute. Thank you.
My favorite kind of public testimony. Thank you for joining us this evening. Okay, so tonight, any council items? Sorry, I can't see the screen with the timer up. Any council items this evening? Okay, seeing none. Any staff items?
None, Mayor.
Thank you. So tonight we're going to move into the consent agenda. So those in the audience, this is typically routine business of the city for it to land on consent. We typically have had conversations about it before, or it is some kind of purchasing that requires council to sign off on it. So tonight we have board and commission appointments, and if you're unfamiliar with that, the way that it works under our charter is the council or the mayor makes recommendations to the city council. The city council affirms those appointments. I will tell you this year we conducted over 100 interviews that my office and the public engagement office interviewed in 15-minute slots. We only went over in 3 interviews, which I think is pretty remarkable. We had the chairs, our community members serving on every single one of those commitments. We brought in our staff liaisons, and I would say we made a really great effort to build really good teams. So the nominations that you see forward tonight is accumulation of a lot of staff time, a lot of interviews, and a lot of community participation. We'll be voting on our legislative framework that council discussed in the last meeting, and operating as a very cool contract review board approving contracts. So with that, Council President, consent agenda, please.
Yes, Mayor, I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Oh, sorry, giving it to Councilor Hassan tonight. Got to be a little faster, Councilor Kimmy. So it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? For new members, if you want to make comments, you type into the type message here. That's how we do it. Councilor Hassan?
Thank you. I just want to make a comment. I understand that we've been working on the state legislative agenda, and just in celebration of the testimony we got, want to remind us that when we think about priorities, not this time around, but hopefully in 2024, we're able to start thinking about really making the Multicultural Center a reality. Thanks.
Councilor Teeter?
I want to echo those thoughts for wanting to prioritize the Multicultural Center next year. Also, as I was going through the boards and commissions appointments, my eyes were drawn most specifically to Planning Commission and Traffic Commission because they are more decision-making bodies, more so than the advisory roles of some of the other boards and commissions. And I think it's really important that we clarify our expectations of Traffic Commission in particular. We just had a 92-year-old lady get killed when she was walking along Allen, and we've got streets that are very unsafe, and I would like us to see how we can either restructure or revision the Traffic Commission rules so that those goals are more in line with our goals as city councilors.
Thank you. Any other comments on tonight's motion? Seeing none, will the recorder call the roll?
Sorry, can I ask a follow-up to Councilor Teeter? Because the way that the traffic, like these commissions are appointed, like in theory, we've not really ever given them direction around our council priorities and expectations, correct?
No, that's incorrect. All of them operate under staff guidance that operate under the city manager's direction, which the council gives. And so I had a conversation with a few of you guys about Traffic Commission, and what I would say is they're operating under the current council, the last year's priority about how we are operating. If we want significant shift in how we govern, then it needs to come from the city council. It's not a position of our 2 advisory committees to go rogue and start making decisions on their own. They're making decisions based in the framework that we do. So the best way to impact Traffic Commission and Planning Commission outcomes is by policy making of this council. And so when the council makes policy, it comes. I would say all my years on council, we've only overturned 1 traffic commission decision and a handful of planning commission decisions. So I would say generally they operate within the guidelines that we would see. On occasion, there's a little bit of disagreement between us and them. And I would say if it's a one-off, I'm perfectly comfortable with that. If we're overturning every single decision, I think it's within our ability to look at what is the guidance we're giving from the dais and then have some internal reflection. And if we feel like our guidance is very clear, then I think we look at appointments a little bit differently. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Any other? Okay, will the recorder call the roll?
Counselor Duggar.
Yes.
Counselor Hartmeyer-Prigg.
Yes.
Counselor Hassan.
Yes.
Counselor Kimmy.
Yes.
Counselor Teeter.
Yes.
Counselor Tivnon.
Yes.
Mayor Beatty.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. Okay, tonight I'm going to issue 2 proclamations. I'm going to issue the Martin Luther King Day celebration first because we have community members here to accept our Korean American Day proclamation. So I'm going to start tonight's proclamation with whereas the month marks the 94th anniversary of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s birth, and whereas Dr. King dedicated his life to advancing equity and social justice and challenged all Americans to participate in the never-ending work to build a more perfect union, and whereas Dr. King taught us that we are measured not only where we stand in moments of comfort and convenience, but by stands we take during times of challenge and controversy. Whereas the events of the past year have presented our community with no shortage of challenges, and where there is a radical divide in our country that we must work to bridge in order to help heal the wounds created by structural racism, both historic and current. And whereas Dr. King's teachings continue to guide and inspire us in addressing the challenges, and whereas Martin Luther King Jr. Day is observed each month on the 3rd Monday in January and is the only federal holiday designated as a national day of service, and whereas each of us can and must continue to make our community better with increased opportunity for the whole community. Now, for I, Lacey Beatty, Mayor of the City of Beaverton, do hereby proclaim January 16th, 2023 as Martin Luther King Jr. Day in the City of Beaverton and encourage all residents to reflect on Dr. King's teaching and seek to put them into action through service and community. Our second proclamation tonight came at the request of Councilor Kimmy, who helped draft it with his expertise and knowledge. So tonight, whereas 120 years ago, on January 13th, 1903, 102 Korean immigrants arrived in Honolulu, Hawaii on the SS Glake to become the first member of what is now a community of approximately 2 million in the United States. And whereas the Korean immigrant came in search of a better life, they were honorable members of our community working hard and raising their families. And today our community benefits from the contributions made by Korean American community members to business, religious groups, academic communities, and neighborhoods in which they reside. Whereas contribution by Korean Americans include the first successful operation of the coronary artery disease, the development of the nectarine, numerous Olympic champions, and well as countless achievements in academics, the arts, and the entertainment industry, government, journalism, American. Whereas the Korean community in Beaverton has grown substantially over the years, contributing to the growth of diversity of our city. And whereas Korean Americans played a critical role in the strength of vitality of relationships between Korea and the United States, thus fostering peace, stability, and strengthening economic relations in the Asian Pacific region and throughout the global economy. And whereas this year is also the 70th anniversary of the alliance between Korea and the United States, now for I, Lacey Beatty, Mayor of the City of Beaverton, do by proclaim January 13th, 2023 as a Korean American Day in the City of Beaverton and urge all residents to join in this observation. I don't know if you want to say a couple words tonight or if any of your guests do, or if they just want to take a photo. Photo is fine? Okay.
We're taking photos?
I agree to once in a while. Apparently, the proclamation was not printed, so, yeah.
Just here. That's good. All right. Smile. This is the real thing. Lovely. Thank you. One more. Hang on. Oh. Does this work? Let's see. Come here. Oh. Okay, let's see if I can take it. Yeah. Okay, 1, 2. Thank you. Good to see you.
Okay, we have 2 presentations tonight, and because we have our federal agenda lobbyist calling in from DC time, I'm going to move his presentation up after our 2 presentations before the public hearing. So with that, we have the Bike Committee 2022 report to the City Council, and we'll turn the floor over to you guys.
Give us just a minute. I can get started. Good evening, Beavertonians. I'm Amanda Koppel, and I'm the current chair of the Bicycle Advisory Committee. And I'm here to give you a report about what we got up to last year. But before that, I wanted to go a little farther back in time with you. Sometime before 1974, the Beaverton General Plan was amended to include a section about bicycling. And in 1974, a formal Beaverton Bikeway program was submitted to the city. In 1976, funds and planning were appointed to establish the Bicycle Use Development Force, which was run until 1980. From 1980 to 2003, this planning group was known using the acronym BIKE, B-I-K-E, Task Force, which stood for Bicycling Interest, Knowledge, and Encouragement. And finally, in 2003, an agenda bill changed the name of BIKE to the City of Beaverton Bicycle Advisory Committee. And here we are. The BAC currently meets on Zoom on the second Thursday of every month from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. And for the past year, our council liaison was Councilor Laura Mitchell. This presentation that you'll see tonight was a group effort, and it covers BAC activities through last November. And I want to give a special thank you and hello to all of the BAC members sitting in the back of the room here with us tonight. In 2022, in just 11 meetings, we served as community advisors for 12 different plans and projects, speaking to representatives over the course of multiple evenings. The BAC served as subject matter experts and a swath of voices from the cycling community, able to provide feedback on how cycling is integral to active transportation and community planning in Beaverton. For example, in the Downtown Loop project, we've reviewed different layouts of streets and sidewalks with Dan Turk, discussing the advantages and disadvantages of different bike lane constructions. We also worked with Kelly Fenton on the redesign of the Beaverton bicycling map. This was the first redesign since 2014. Not only did the BAC brainstorm ideas for what could be printed on the back panel of the map, but we helped to choose the cover image. A third advisory highlight was the installation of 2 new bicycle repair stations around the city. It was serendipity, as BAC member Mike Vogler had expressed an interest in how new repair stations are installed, and it just so happened that THPRD and Eagle Scouts could make it happen. The BAC reviewed 6 potential new locations, and we voted for our top 3. The BAC is a group of action, taking a visible role in a number of community projects. 2022 was our 3rd year volunteering with the Safe Routes to School program. We helped students roll around at bike rodeos and reviewed and voted for our favorite artwork in the Bike Walk and Roll yearly art contest. Going a little out of order on this slide, we also volunteered for the inaugural Summer Bike Count program. With other members of the community, we helped to document all of the rollers through 34 different locations around Beaverton during morning and evening commutes. But most notably, we had a return to Bike Beaverton. We were so excited to volunteer and participate in the first in-person Bike Beaverton after this event's virtual hiatus, and over 300 cyclists of all ages came out to the event this past year. Education is a major component of Bike Beaverton, and the event reached out to give away 56 properly fitted bike helmets to kids. Speaking of giveaways, the new Bike Beaverton map, the new bicycling map was given away at Bike Beaverton, and 150 copies were handed out. Later on this past year, at the Beaverton Celebration Parade, the BAC rode the route and gave away an additional 493 new bicycling edition maps. Last year, the BAC dove into advocacy for community projects that would benefit our cyclists. We signed and submitted letters of support on 4 different projects: the Allen Boulevard Complete Streets Plan, the West Side Trail Bridge, Beaverton Creek Trail, and Council Creek Trail plans, the Transportation System Plan update, and the Downtown Loop Complete Street Project. All 4 of these improvement projects were funded, and we look forward to seeing their positive impact in Beaverton. Looking ahead this year, there are simple things that council and the city can do to create immediate positive change for cyclists in Beaverton. First of all, let's make Bike Beaverton even more bicycle friendly. For example, looking into rolling road closures along our route, better rights of way, and finding more volunteers for ride management. In addition, we could have enhanced cleaning or maintenance schedules for our bike lanes around town. A really good example of this is with the weather we've had recently. There's now a lot of gravel and debris in the bicycle lanes around town, which makes it kind of hard to stay safe and out of the street. A third idea is one that, like the repair stations, might be serendipity. Our BAC member, Xuan Xu, had the idea of putting up wayfinding signs in Beaverton to help cyclists find the best ways around town. Maybe this idea could tie into the downtown loop or other neighborhood enhancement projects, and any number of new signs could help everybody travel to point B. That said, the BAC also has some longer-term, bigger ideas that would make Beaverton even more bicycle-friendly. What's our ultimate goal? We want it safe to bike on any street in Beaverton. Ideas to help us get there could be enforcing lower speed limits on popular bicycling routes, increasing signalized crossings, completing sidewalks in areas that lack them, adding protected bicycle lanes, and providing adequate lighting for some of our cycling routes for when it's later in the day. To roll around Beaverton more safely, we could also prioritize the development of greenways so cyclists wouldn't even need to take busy driving routes to get to where they're going. Finally, safer bike crossings could be as simple as lengthening the amount of time we and other active citizens have to cross the street by making sure there's enough time in sufficient light lengths for us to actually cross the street. We hope that in 2023, you'll join us on a group ride around Beaverton for some firsthand experience of our infrastructure and road conditions. Thank you so much for your time this evening.
Thank you. Looks like our first, Councilor Hassan.
Just want to say shout out because you were my last board in 2021. Really appreciate all the work you do. As a person who served as a liaison, like they really are advising some really big projects that I just, like it's not, like it wasn't the thing that I woke up at night and was like, yeah, I want to do this, but they came with that heart and soul and we need that. So we really appreciate you. So thanks.
They didn't convert you to like an avid cyclist or you're there? Okay, working on it. Councilor Duggar.
John works too. Number one, thank you for this. I look forward to being the next council liaison for this upcoming year. I also am going to be a big advocate for cycling on this council. I cycle between 2,000 and 3,000 miles a year, most of it in Beaverton. I see the problems. I felt the problems. I almost wiped out yesterday, in fact, because of gravel in the lanes. In fact, I was avoiding the gravel and hit mud, and coming down a hill, that's not a good combination. So appreciate the work. You're going to have a massive advocate. I think you have a bunch of advocates for this work. We realize how important it is, but I just wanted to make sure you all know that I see you, and I know this work is absolutely critical for us to get serious about our climate change, climate action plan, and our alternative transportation plan. Thank you.
Councilor Teeter.
Yeah, thank you for coming and presenting with us today. I want to second what John said, or what Councilor Duggar said. You will have a really good advocate as your council liaison. I ride my bike most places I go as well, so I want you to know if you need anything from other boards and commissions that I might be a liaison for, like let's see how we can do some of those cross partnerships there. I wish I didn't have to be as big of an advocate for safe cycling infrastructure, but I just don't want people to be unsafe. Like it should be safe for middle schoolers and elementary schoolers to be able to ride where they want to go with freedom and safety. So we want to support you. I'm glad you're here, and thanks for starting off 2023 with us.
Councilor Tivnon.
Yeah, thank you very much for that presentation. That was wonderful, and I especially love all the statistics as well as the look ahead. This is a committee that I think of more than just bicycles. It's bicycle is in the name, but I think of it as the multimodal committee. It's about creating options and safety and getting people out of their cars. And I appreciate all the work you're doing to help inform the transportation projects that we have going on, as well as thinking through the in-betweens, like the greenways, and what can that look like. I see potential to continue to build pedestrian into some of these conversations, because I think that just adds more amplification to help us move some things through. So we'll look forward to hearing your report next year and all the great accomplishments that you've done in 2023. Thank you.
Councilor Kimmy.
Yeah, I want to second everything that all other councilors have said, and appreciate all the services. I know volunteering takes time and effort, lots of energy to come up with ideas. One thing I might want to add is I know Portland does like a lime green or kind of paint for the road. I would like to be pink. just saying. Just a little different than Portland, if possible. But I love the work that you guys doing. Thank you.
Well, I know my 5-year-old would appreciate you painting the roads pink, so we'll put that on there. The vice mayor would dig it. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I think sometimes when I think about this board, and a lot of people know I cycle, well, currently not now, but I've cycled a lot in my past. And when I make appointments to the board, sometimes I don't want the obvious choice. I like to put people that can look from the outside in. Like when I nominated Councilor Hassan to serve on that role, sometimes it's good to bring people so it's not a silo of the same people with the same thoughts. And I do that kind of across our boards and commissions, where I want to give them one board that they absolutely love and maybe one that they wouldn't have naturally picked, because I think those sometimes are the best kind of advocates that can join you thinking outside the box. I really like the idea of wayfinding. It's something we have done a lot of work in the city, and I think we've not always hit the mark on it. But I think for wayfinding to work from a cyclist perspective, we have to really engage our special district parks in that conversation. So many of the trails and alternative bikeways also involve our community partners. I mean, getting on the trail sometimes, and I call THPRD all the time, it is hard to find it if you don't know the routes. And it kind of feels like you have insider knowledge if you know how to get like across the trail to somebody else, especially on Fano Creek. Like if you know how to go through the community on Western, like you're the insider, you're the true cyclist, or know how to get over 217 to access. So I think about those kind of things and what a partnership and bringing some of their committees, their public engagement committees together for some joint work, because wayfinding is the best way to keep people safe, and that way they just naturally know where to go and they're not put in unsafe situations. So I think you're onto something. We're definitely going to be talking about that in the Loop project. Your staff liaison is our in-house expert on the Loop, and so no pressure, Gene, but hopefully you can deliver us some amazing wayfinding in 2023. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, our second presentation of the evening, we have our Washington County elected sheriff, Sheriff Garrett, joining us tonight. Looks like you have a buddy with you, so make sure you introduce him, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Beatty. Thank you, councilors. I'm Sheriff Pat Garrett, and my congratulations to Council President Hartmeyer Prigg, Councilors Duggar and Teeter for your election and new terms of office. My thanks to all of you for allowing Under Sheriff John Cook to my right and I to provide a bit of a Sheriff's Office update tonight. And of course, we'd love to answer any questions you have along the way. Let's see here. Oh gosh. Slide, please. So our comments tonight are going to really be focused on countywide services. Next slide, please. Just some numbers for you as far as our countywide service population. We rely on our partners to accomplish our mission. We could not get that done without them, and your Beaverton Police Department is an excellent partner. Our staff and your department staff work shoulder to shoulder, day and night. We are enthusiastic about Chief Jepson. We know her from her time in Hillsborough, and we're glad to see her lead your police department. Slide, please. We derive our mission from our statutory, really our statutory mission that is assigned to the sheriff, conserving the peace. And it's not just getting the job done that's important, it's how you do it. So we assigned our core values to our mission, that literally to do your best, do the right thing, treat others the way you want to be treated. Our strategic goals support fostering professionalism, building trust with community, and fiscal responsibility. Slide, please. There are hundreds of statutes that direct specific duties to the sheriff. And this is just a sample of just a very few of them. Those in black text are really in common with every law enforcement officer in the state, right? We enforce criminal statute. We comply with public orders of the court. And we really work with our partners in the community to bring community safety, and so that community members can feel safe, and not only be safe, but feel safe. Those in blue near the bottom are unique to a sheriff's office. And in addition to those, it's really not too uncommon to city police departments have their own city code, right, that they attend to, just as a sheriff's office has unique state statutes that we attend to as well. One of them in blue is execute civil processes and court orders. That would take me to my next slide, which is an example of civil services. We have a team of about 8 staff that do nothing but enforce civil orders of the court. And here's really what they are, is listed on this slide. It's really serving documents at the end of the day, and frankly, it's not good news. Our civil deputies have a very impressive way of breaking bad news in a way to folks that convey compassion, sympathy, and getting that order of the court served at the end of the day. That is done in the best way possible. There's a data point here I want to share with you, and that is evictions. So right about a week ago, I asked our civil department, how do evictions stand up this year compared to years past? Because that is a concern in our community. In the middle of December, we had processed 267 evictions. In 2021, that was 115. In 2020, that was 106. You might remember there was protections against eviction. So they're on their way up again, but they are on par with what the numbers were in 2019 and 2018. A slide, please. Another countywide service is managing our jail. So that second kind of note there, the jail maintains custody of criminal offenders assigned to terms of incarceration of no more than a year. They hold pre-adjudicated individuals that are deemed by the courts to be too dangerous for release. They also hold probation violation sanctions. Those individuals under supervision who are just gone outside the rules of probation just to get their attention, get them back on track, help them with their transition back to the community. That's generally a few days to a few weeks of incarceration. Very rare cases, we will have someone in custody who's the subject of a material witness warrant or a contempt of court warrant. Very, very rare, but those are how people end up in jail. We do have the second smallest jail facility of any county in the state of Oregon, and we are in the midst right now of a staffing crisis. As I emailed mayors back in June, right now we're sitting at about 14% vacancy rate on deputies, and that has required that we close one housing unit to best ensure that we maintain a safe and secure jail. We are working with the county to up our recruitment game. We're not seeing the same kind of challenges on the enforcement side as we are on the jail side, but that right now is job one for us. You can see at the bottom the jail served your officers. We processed over 1,200 bookings in 2021, and so far this year, early December, that number was about just over 2,300 bookings. And we believe having a jail open to booking any probable cause arrest or warrant arrest that an officer needs to do in the moment to resolve a public safety emergency or problem is important. Slide, please. COVID-19 continues to be a reality and a risk in a 24-hour congregate setting. So our staff continues to be masked up when working with our adults in custody. We are cohorting, that is, folks come into custody where they're held in groups by a couple of 3 days upon arrival to minimize the spread of not just COVID, but the flu and other viruses that are going around. But we are beginning to loosen that up and to open up programming to help prepare those in custody for a successful transition back into the community when they're done in jail. What helped us get us through COVID when we had to suspend in-person visiting was tablets. So adults in custody get tablets if they follow the rules. They can do visiting with family, with friends right there, and that helped them get through the challenges of COVID isolation, even in a custodial setting. Lastly, just as we're seeing in the community, we are seeing through our front doors of the jail a higher proportion of those with mental illness and substance use disorder, which gets me to my next slide. We have medical assisted treatment in the facility, just as we have in the community, to help people detox from opioid substance use disorder and other forms of substance use and misuse. We know that adults in custody who attend programming, whether that's education, the high school diploma programs, counseling, mentoring, job placement, job training, they have a lower rate of recidivism. And so we are continuing to place a great deal of emphasis on programming as a way to help our adults in custody be successful when they transition. Slide, please. And over to Undersheriff Cook.
Thank you, Sheriff. I'm going to talk about a few of our countywide interagency teams. The Sheriff's Office manages a lot of the countywide interagency teams, but we partner with Beaverton Police and Hillsborough Police to pool our resources for some more complex type investigations. For example, our crash reconstruction team. A lot of our agencies pool our resources together, so if there's a major crash or if there's a major crime scene, they can bring in very high-tech equipment like our Faro scanner, which is a 3D scanner, and they can recreate that accident scene or a crime scene, and it's provided service provided to all of our agencies. Next slide, please. The first team I'm really going to highlight is going to be our tactical negotiations team and our crisis negotiations unit. This is a typical SWAT team and hostage negotiations team. You don't hear a lot about this in Washington County, but they are actually very busy. Most of our stats we're talking about tonight are from 2021, just because all of our 2022 stats have not come in yet. But in 2021, our teams responded to over 128 calls for service. And these are really kind of the highest level calls of service throughout public safety. And when they're responding, they're really a de-escalation of safety. People know what they see in the movies, but that's not what these teams do. Between the negotiators and the tactical units, they're able to slow down situations and kind of bring calm to some of the chaos and resolve these incidents safely. In 2021, even though they responded to over 128 calls for service throughout Washington County, 21 of which were in the city of Beaverton, there was only one use of force resulting in injury. So these are some of the highest level offenders, and they're able to help de-escalate those situations and resolve them peacefully. Next slide, please. The next team we're going to talk about is the criminal apprehension team. This is a team from Sheriff's Office deputies where they partner with the U.S. Marshal Service. They have really two main roles. One is to apprehend wanted fugitives throughout all of Washington County, but the other key piece that they do is they check on registered sex offenders throughout all of Washington County. One of their goals is to touch base with all registered sex offenders at least once a year to make sure that they're in compliance with all of their restrictions and they're where they need to be. Because this team partners with the U.S. Marshal Service, who also focuses on wanted fugitives and sex offenders, they do have folks that leave the state and flee to other parts of the country. They're able to partner with the U.S. Marshals to bring them back to Washington County and hold them accountable. Throughout COVID, like a lot of the other restrictions, they were not able to make it to all of the registered sex offenders in Washington County, in the cities and in the unincorporated areas, but they really focused on those highest level offenders to make sure they're in compliance. But now that we're getting back to regular operations, they're going to be trying to make sure they touch base with each one of those folks. In 2021, they had over 1,100 home visits, and they arrested over 300 individuals. And that's both for folks that are out of compliance with their sex offender registration, as well as folks that are wanted on other charges. Next slide, please. The next team we're going to talk about, I think you all have probably heard of previously, but it's the mental health response team. This is a team that about 10 years ago was a partnership with the Washington County Sheriff's Office, Washington County Behavioral Health, and LifeWorks Northwest. Started out with one team responding to those in crisis throughout all of Washington County. It has been so successful for all of our communities that we've expanded it. Beaverton's now a full-time partner, along with Hillsborough Place. And then our South County partners, Tigard, Tualatin, and Sherwood, also have a team. TriMet's also funding a team now, so we're up to about 8 teams countywide that are able to get services immediately to those folks that are in crisis. And again, these teams are responding to some folks that are really going through tough times. It could be very volatile. In 2021, they responded to over 2,400 calls for service. 350 of those were inside the city of Beaverton. One of the things that we want to talk about is really, again, the de-escalation of force. That's really what the focus of these teams are, to train people, our deputies, our police officers with additional training and provide them with tools so they can de-escalate situations and alleviate issues. Out of those 2,400 calls for service that the MHRT responded to, only 16, which is 0.6%, resulted in a use of force incident. So very, very low numbers. They're able to de-escalate a lot of those situations, get those folks in crisis the resources they need. And when they're responding, they're generally responding to people in crisis. They do conduct some follow-up on high-level offenders to make sure that they're getting the resource that they need and are able to maintain in the community. Next slide, please. I'm just going to talk about a couple of the highlights, or not just highlight a couple areas where the teams responded in the city of Beaverton. In 2021, our CNU, our crisis negotiators, responded to somebody that was in distress, threatening to jump from an overpass. By us pooling our resources, it doesn't matter if Beaverton Police does not have one of their crisis negotiators on, we send it out countywide. So it could be a Tigard police officer or a sheriff's office deputy that respond, but we're able to provide that service to all of our communities and bring peaceful resolution to that. And that person was able to be talked down off of the overpass. Also in 2021, there was a situation action in the city of Hillsborough just outside of Beaverton and unincorporated Washington County that resulted in a 30-hour standoff. It was a gentleman that was in mental health crisis. When crisis workers showed up to provide assistance, he fired rounds at them with a handgun. Our tactical team and negotiators were able to respond. They were out there at the residence for over 30 hours, de-escalating, talking to the person in crisis, trying to get other resources to them. At the very end of the situation, we brought in equipment from outside of the region from another team that had some shields, ballistic shields that were basically on kind of a forklift style piece of equipment. Our officers and deputies went face to face with this gentleman that was in crisis, and he fired rounds at them, and then they were able to take him into custody with very minor injuries. A lot of this stuff doesn't, again, we talked about, you don't see it on the news because they're able to resolve it with very low levels of force, if any, which is really kind of a tribute to their professionalism and skills and training. The last one we'll talk about was another situation in the city of Beaverton where crisis negotiators and tactical team members responded to a gentleman that was barricaded and threatened neighbors with machete. They were able to resolve the situation without any use of force and get the person to surrender and then get them the services they needed. That is it, if we can go to the next slide. But again, it's just really highlighting the partnerships and collaboration all of our agencies have to be able to provide a professional public safety service across all of Washington County.
And what Undersheriff Cook just described could not be possible without the Beaverton police professionals that are on those teams. So kudos to you for supporting that effort and our gratitude for that. We'd love to answer any questions that you have.
And sure, if I could just add one piece I forgot to mention on the 30-hour standoff. One of the Beaverton police officers received a Medal of Valor award for his service at that call out.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Thank you for joining us today. I know sometimes when you're new in this role, we're like, why would we have the elected county sheriff come to the Beaverton City Council and talk about the work you're doing? But the interagency work that you guys do is really amazing. I had a couple questions for you. Do your sheriffs go through the same training facility as police officers? So are you having the same issue of scheduling that our municipal police departments are experiencing with not enough training classes at the state training facility?
Thank you for the question, Mayor. We are having the same challenges that your officers have. We have an in-house academy that we start everyone off of. It's 10 or 8 or 9 weeks.
Yeah.
That gives us a little bit more flexibility because we could keep them busy for the first couple of months before we have to get them into an academy. But we are experiencing those challenges as well.
And so the council knows one of the things the metropolitan mayors have been working on with our state legislature is that we're doing all this recruiting. We're seeing a higher level of recruitment among women and people of color. We can't get them into training classes, which is really prolonging. Our police department is very lucky. We don't have a huge deficiency compared to cities around us that might be in a deficit or 30 or 40 police officers. We're not in that position. But we've been collectively working together because we're at the mercy of the state doing these training facilities. So it's one of the things the mayors have been working on together with the state legislature to direct more training days. And then my second kind of question and comment is among the jail. I understand the staffing issue side of the jail, but we're also hearing, I know our city managers and the mayors are touring next week, the actual physical jail and the maintenance problems. Can you tell us a little bit about what you guys are experiencing with that?
Yeah, so in the past 12 months, the county has hired a new facilities director and a new chief financial officer. Together, they brought to light some to use a military term, depot level maintenance, very significant maintenance issues regarding plumbing and the HVAC system on the roof. It is all due to be updated or replaced, and that's a significant cost that is coming to the county. And we are working with the county administrator's office and with our board to figure out how to fund that. But that is and to the county's credit, that's a priority number one, right? Our 24-hour jail, Harkins House for our juvenile offenders. It's not a true custody setting, but we do have a kind of reform house for our juvenile offenders, and then our community corrections, our work release center. They all have some significant maintenance issues that were just recently brought to light, which we are focusing on as well. Thank you for that.
Yeah, just so you guys know, the county chair shared with the mayors last week that they're just undergoing kind of a facilities master plan, which is pretty routine for cities. Like, we have one, which is why when we build buildings, we don't think about just building them. We think about the maintenance, like the RESER and what we had to do with an endowment to make sure there's future funding, what we did for this building, what we did for our own police department. So that kind of safety wasn't, or that kind of safety net wasn't built into the building of these facilities, which directly impacts us, because if they can't house members, and what we saw during COVID was community members being upset. Like, if someone stole a package, we weren't, or a Cadillac converter, we weren't arresting people right away. And because of our intergovernmental partnership, we don't run the jail, they do. And so we're at the same kind of impact in this situation. So that's why the city managers had recently been on a tour with the county administrators, and the mayors are going on a tour next week to look at the extent of the damage, because it's likely going to take a large lift from the county to make that happen. Thank you for that. Councilor Duggar?
Yeah, thanks for being here with us. Question, I think, maybe a comment, and this would actually, in a weird twist, after our first election in May, a couple neighbors had mentioned this had happened to them, and then it happened to my husband in October. And that is a fraudulent call from someone impersonating a Washington County Sheriff's Office, and being the good millennial I am, the moment I got on the call, I Googled his name, and he was a real officer, but it wasn't that officer, right? And, kind of trying to shake us down with money. It was pretty clear that we were just like, you know what, we're not talking to you, we'll call the sheriff's office, and we did. And it clearly wasn't real, and they told us as such. But my concern is people that can't navigate the system as easily as I can. And is there any way we can communicate out common fraudulent things? In fact, communicate them all the time, right? These things are happening. If you have any questions, call us, because at the end of the day, we are very fortunate in that we have the resources to call. But I live right in front of a couple of retirement communities, retirement facilities. I think about them all the time, and I'm not sure that they would have done that. And I think that would have scared them, and they might have been shaken down for some money. And I think it's an opportunity. It's on my list to talk to our chief about, including the communications and the newsletter. But I think we've got to get ahead of that, because it was legit. It seems so incredibly scary to someone even like me, who's informed about these things. So I guess my question is, are you seeing that, number one? And number two, are there things we can do about, beyond just social media? Like, what are the communications tools we can use to kind of prevent this stuff from happening?
Yeah, thank you, Councilor Duggar. Unfortunately, that is a semi-regular incident, and we are routinely providing public information, press releases about that, warning the community through our networks. Listening to you, though, just gives me an idea. I know our public information officers, they work together, and perhaps there's some opportunity there to spread that word more widely than we have been in the past. And we'll definitely follow up with our PIOs on that front. Yeah, they sound official. It's just very unfortunate. I've had your thoughts on.
No, I think just to kind of add to your thoughts, Sheriff, I think getting with some of our retirement communities would be essential as well for all of our PIOs to make sure we're giving consistent messaging on things to look out for.
Yeah, I would love it if we could coordinate with Beaverton Police on that.
Yep.
And all the other cities, I'm sure, are experiencing it too. But again, we got to reach out to these vulnerable communities, and I'm sure any way I can support that, let me know.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Councilor Hassan?
I would add to what Councilor Duggar says. I do think that's really important. I do think but social media, but then I think some of the most vulnerable communities are not probably on there. So just as you're thinking through what that looks like, just thank you so much for all the work you do, and kudos on all the collaboration. I know that policing and doing this work is really, really hard and probably really big. I do want to share that something that I'll be talking about with our council and our chief as well is what response looks like for immigrant and refugee communities. And I will share a mini story for y'all, and I'll try to be fast. But there was an instance recently of somebody that I knew where I wouldn't say that it was domestic violence, but it felt like it was domestic violence, and there was a fear to call the police. And the decision was made in this situation that calling the police might escalate the situation. And so I'd really like us to start thinking about, I think mental health response is kind of like step one. I think that's great. I do want to hear more around does mental health response need to be partnered with, like, you know, like I'd like to hear from you all and from the mental health responders. But I think there's a healthy distrust. I don't know if it's healthy, but there's a distrust to call sometimes. And I would like to be able to tell people that they should call. And I would also like to make sure that maybe when they're calling, that if a police officer isn't necessary, what is the alternative? And so if I could dream, like we look at 911 call data, we look at what kind of calls they are. Is it domestic? Is it violent? Is it this? And we use that data and better equip, whether it's officers and or other teams. That's something that I care really deeply about. And this story that I'm mentioning is one of a lot of stories that I hear from some of our communities, especially folks who don't speak English, especially folks who don't know how to navigate. So just something I hope that you'll think about, and I'll continue to advocate for with all the right folks.
Thank you, Councilor Hassan. I can tell you that your police chief and myself, right now, we're working to set up a meeting with a local Muslim leader on an incident that where we are both involved a bit, and it's out of that kind of that fear of police involvement. So what is our role, and where can we help people feel safe and resolve the issue? So thank you for that.
If I could add something to that as well, when you talked about the mental health response, so we do assess that. So our mental health response team is different if you've heard about like the Cahoots model out of Eugene. They do not respond to people that are like in violent crisis at that time, and that's when we need a police officer there. So in those other instances where folks are having crisis episodes, but there's not a public safety issue, Washington County Behavioral Health also has a crisis team that is just mental health professionals that will respond to some of those situations. So we do save those MHRT teams for folks that are more volatile.
Councillor Kimmy?
Yeah, I really sincerely appreciate both of you coming. I mean, you guys don't have to do this, but appreciate the informing us of what's going on with the Sheriff's Department. My question is kind of similar with Councilor Hassan, where what triggers mental health response team, like, because in our community, they don't know who to call, and they don't know who you're going to get. It could be mental health, it could be something else. So just wondering what triggers it, and then another question, second question is, what is the makeup of diversity in the Sheriff's Department, and how do you recruit the people of color, and how do you train cultural competency? Now it's almost like required for every professional. So that would be my question, but I appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Do you want to take the MHRT one?
Yes, sir. So the first kind of response for us comes usually from a 911 call. It's a neighbor or a family member calling because somebody's in crisis. And when all of that comes into our dispatch center, it's a shared dispatch center with police, fire, the sheriff's office. They'll assess that call. Sometimes they'll send a medical unit. It might be an ambulance, it might be a fire department, depending on the call. It could be us. There's times that we may send just a police officer or a deputy, and then either mental health response team will get engaged, or we'll refer it to the crisis team or the crisis line. And so it's kind of a triage depending on what the particular instance is.
I would add that our racial breakdown in the sheriff's office, we are not representative of the community that we serve. Our Black, Indigenous, persons of color, right about 13% last I checked, which was in the last year. We are focused on recruiting really anybody who is career-minded, community-focused professional, who will do this work in the right way for the community. But we are focused on diverse web-based platforms. I mean, that really shot up in relevance during COVID. We go to culturally specific hiring fairs. We do go to military workshops. The military is a very diverse community, as you probably know, and we have more than a few of our diverse staff come from the military to our work. We also have a community-led Latino Advisory Commission that helps us both serve our Latino community more effectively and also engage those who may be open-minded to this kind of work. So we have to do more, but it is on our minds to keep doing what we're doing and do a better job, frankly, as well.
I was going to add in there, Sheriff, as well, that when it comes to training, that's another focus for us. We have our own internal diversity, equity, and inclusion training team that are made up of professionals in the Sheriff's Office, and then they work with our county Office of Equity to make sure that our messaging going out to our staff is consistent across the county. But that's been very, very beneficial for us in the last few years.
Councillor Tivnon.
Thank you. Yeah, this kind of crosses and intersects with a few things. Going back to the mental health response team and thinking about the Beaverton Police Department's bicycle response team that goes out and is the first true interface with folks that are experiencing homelessness. So that's not a squad car pulling up to them, it's a human being. And from what I've heard, they develop relationships on a first name basis. And where I'm going with this is that in a couple of years' time, we'll have a permanent shelter that's situated here in Beaverton, but we'll likely be servicing folks across jurisdictions. And the county is going to be operating it. The Center for Addiction Triage and Treatment, I think the name is going to be coming online at some point. That's going to intersect with it as well. And certainly I'm assuming that you will play a role in this, but I'm curious if that's taking shape, or if, because it seems like very new territory where there's a lot of different folks that will be privy to information that should be sharing it, so that we get to that first name basis with the folks that are utilizing these services and get them the resources that they need. So can you speak to that at all?
Yeah, thank you, Counselor. That's a wonderful observation. I'm in a planning committee for the CAT, the Crisis Addictions Triage and Treatment Center. I'll tell you one thing that excites me. That is going to enable us to take people who are being released from jail, who are in the midst, continue to be in the midst of a substance use disorder, to the CAT to do literally a warm handoff for inpatient treatment. We don't have that opportunity right now, and so folks that get out who are struggling with addiction wind up in that environment. And so that does provide opportunities for both substance use disorder and people with behavioral health challenges to continue to get better in that transition period when they leave jail.
If I could add a couple things. We're also working on a countywide level on some policies for time, place, and manner. And one of the things we're talking about is making sure that we're consistent across jurisdictions. What we don't want to see is have one jurisdiction just pushing our houseless community to another jurisdiction. And so the engagement that you're talking about is absolutely essential. We have what's called a HOPE program, which is a houseless outreach program and engagement. We have deputies that go into the encampments. They work with housing staff to make sure we get people into stable housing. And then, like you said, there's so much intersection between addiction, houselessness, and mental health. And so our HOPE deputies also work with the mental health response team, but to make sure we're able to get people hopefully to the CAT Center eventually, but also Hawthorne Walk-In Center if there's more mental health services, because we really want to divert people from the criminal justice system and get them the services that they need. And so it's essential that all of our agencies work together in that problem.
And I have one follow-up question to it. I had a conversation a long time ago with a county prosecutor who was talking about one of the problems with recidivism was the cyclical nature of folks that are experiencing mental illness that have medication, who get jailed, can fall off their medication because the supply runs out, they don't get the prescription filled, or it's almost like this just gap in communication with people to make sure that they stay on it. And they can get into such a state that they can't even enter a plea on their own behalf, and sometimes have to be supported just enough to make the plea. They're given their sentence, they serve it, but by the time they get out, they're in pretty dire straits because they now are completely off their meds. And I don't know if this has been something that you've directly experienced, or if this is something that's going to be addressed now that there's this intersection with mental health treatment, especially with CAT coming online, and just better communication amongst jurisdictions and like the shelter and things like that. But that seems to be an area that across the metro area people are talking about. How do we help folks that are transient, that are moving across boundaries, continue to cling to the services they've been able to get and the help they've been able to get, even as they maybe find themselves kind of at odds in a new jurisdiction, how do we help each other to make sure that the progress gained with individuals isn't lost with each encounter? I don't know if there was a question in there, but it has been on my mind, and I'm hoping that the Sheriff's Department can play a role in helping with that.
Thank you. The largest contract the county has is jail medical contract. So when we have people in custody that come in with a prescription, or they clearly, based on their medical exam by an RN when they get to jail, if they get lodged, they get medications. Right now there may be a day delay in getting them squared away, but we have a pharmacy there, they get medications. This is my opinion as a sheriff. If we had greater access to inpatient, outpatient behavioral health services in the community, we would have fewer people in jail with mental illness. And that's what we need to do, is need to find a way to prevent them from getting there in the first place. And I think that's by expanding services. And kudos to the county for the crisis addiction triage and treatment, and for you for partnering. That is a giant next step in getting there. But it is a challenge. You're right. It's a huge, huge challenge.
Sure, if I could add to that, I think the other essential piece is the collaborations we have with teams like MHRT. By that being an interagency team, our clinicians can share some of that protected information across jurisdictions, because like you said, the folks that we're trying to provide service to do not always know where the city of Beaverton ends and unincorporated Washington County begins. And so by us having those interagency teams, the clinicians are able to share that information across the county and provide a more constant service for those folks.
Councillor Huston?
Just wanted to make a quick follow-up comment. You talked about wanting to diversify the force, and I think that is an essential piece. I do think it's also important to look at the policies and systems, because just diversifying alone, right, what I've seen happen and I've personally experienced, right, is like, okay, I'm here and it's going to be okay. And then it's a mandatory child reporting issue, but it's also a family education issue, because the family doesn't understand how to navigate services and resources. And so just generally speaking, I'd love for us to move, start thinking about like big picture. Diversifying alone is not going to solve things. I think I said it earlier, I live in two worlds. I continue to live in two worlds, which is like, what is the legal thing I'm supposed to do, and what is the humane thing that I'm supposed to do? I think kudos to you all for doing that every day, but how do we build something that doesn't criminalize a person for doing something that maybe they shouldn't do? So just something to continue to think about.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. And I think to some of Councillor Tivnon's questions, the governor-elect is going to be here on Thursday in Washington County talking with leaders about a few of these things. In particular, she wants to know how the county is working together with cities and how we're going to kind of build through that as she's building her budget. So this is really great time for a lot of us to hear that. They'll be meeting with the governor-elect this week to do that. And I think the fact that she's taking such a big interest from the state level, because I think the sheriff could agree with me, a lot of our problems could be solved with more money. And some of the things that we're trying to do just require so much more money than we typically do. And when you have big, bold council ideas like this council often has, or the county board has together, we don't have the state as a partnership in the funding. So I'm hopeful. Obviously, things don't change on a dime, but it's the first time a governor's coming to ask us these questions. So thank you, Sheriff. Thank you, Under Sheriff, for joining us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Okay, we are moving up. I know I see Joel on there, but it looks like we have Gwen Baldwin here tonight to do the introductions and managing between Joel and DC and our affairs with here. So I'm going to turn it over to Gwen.
Thank you, Mayor Beatty and members of the council. It's nice to be back in person and with all of the new council members. Again, virtually with me here tonight is Joel Rubin. He is a partner with CFM. Just as a reminder, CFM is our lobbyist in DC around federal issues. And so this is an opportunity tonight for Joel to give you a brief update on federal affairs, as well as to walk you through the proposed 2023 federal agenda. And then hopefully, out of that presentation, out of the conversations and questions that come from this, we will be walking away with any necessary or needed adjustments to this federal agenda so that it can come back on consent, just as the state agenda did this evening. And move forward swiftly so we can get on to the advocacy side of the equation. So with that, Joel, take it away.
Gwen, thank you so much. Mayor, members of the council, city manager, Joel Rubin with CFM Advocates. Really appreciate the opportunity to present to you all today. I wish I was there in person, but I am back here in Washington, D.C. And it's actually very refreshing to see. We work with a lot of municipal governments. And their swearing in ceremony that you all had tonight it shouldn't be unusual, and but it's refreshing to see for me today in Washington, D.C. It's been a very challenging day for the future Speaker of the House, who hasn't been able to swear in himself or any new members of Congress here in Washington, D.C., because he's had 3 failed attempts at the speakership vote, and we are hoping that it gets resolved here as quickly as possible. But it's nice to see all the new members of council being sworn in today, because it is so important what you all do. And I really feel honored to represent the city of Beaverton back here in Washington, D.C. And tonight, my hope is to talk a little bit about some of the successes that we've had in Washington, and talk about your federal agenda, proposed federal agenda for 2023, and look forward to some discussion and suggestions and insight from the council and the mayor in terms of what you all are looking to advocate for in the new year. So I'm going to share my screen here. Hopefully this works. And I'm going to turn this into a slideshow. So hopefully everyone can see that. So tonight I'm going to talk about some of the recent successes, your 2023 draft federal agenda. I want to emphasize that this is still a work in progress. We've had a number of one-on-one conversations with council members and the mayor and city staff to work through some of the project and policy ideas for 2023 that align with the city's priorities, but also with the federal government and your congressional delegation. So some of those project and policy items we're going to walk through today. The Inflation Reduction Act and some of the opportunities that are presented because of that. Wrap up the 2022 elections. Everyone's pretty familiar with the outcomes there, and then look forward a little bit to 2023 in terms of what Congress and the president have in store for the country. So recent successes, it's really been an honor and privilege to work with the mayor and council and staff to bring back some federal resources to the city of Beaverton. Over the last couple of years, you all in particular have been very successful in securing funds for the water infrastructure programs that you all have, the PRCA, Patricia Reeser Center for the Arts, the Nonprofit Business Incubator, and the Behavioral Health Court. That was in 2021. So $32 million in federal resources coming back to the city of Beaverton. In addition to that, we had some policy successes in 2021 with ARPA, which is the recovery package that brought over $16 million to the city of Beaverton. And the infrastructure package, the bipartisan infrastructure package that people have been talking about for years, if not decades, that came in at $1.2 trillion, that the city is going to be able to take advantage of some of those resources, and it already has. And that's part of what your 2022 successes can contain. A great year in 2022 with the Loop project. It's a CDS. They were formerly called earmarks. Now they're called congressionally directed spending projects. The Loop received a $4 million allocation in 2022, supported primarily by Congresswoman Bonamici. Very excited about this development project and what it means for the downtown. And I was listening in on the bike discussion, and the Loop is just going to be a huge benefit to bike ped mobility throughout the downtown. So the Loop received a $4 million basically grant through the congressional process and you all will be seeing those funds in 2023 as a result of that. So very excited about that $4 million allocation from Congresswoman Bonamici. The Loop also received a RAISE grant planning. It's a planning grant through the RAISE program for $2 million. Another very exciting thing for the city of Beaverton, there's typically only 1 or 2 RAISE grants awarded in the state of Oregon per year. And Beaverton was able to secure the $2 million RAISE planning grant in 2022. A big thank you to your entire team. These RAISE planning grants are not easy to put together. The 30-page applications that are very technical, and couldn't have done it without your staff, Jean and Cheryl, for all of their great work on pulling that application together. And the mayor, of course, for coming back to Washington, D.C. and not only advocating to the congressional delegation, but also going to the Department of Transportation and making sure that they understand the value of the Loop project for not only Beaverton, but for the region, and drawing in a multimodal safety and economic development project to the region. So $2 million planning grant. And the benefit of getting the planning grant through the RAISE program is a lot of times once you get that planning grant through the Department of Transportation, it really sets you up for that larger construction award, and going after the RAISE program for another 10, 15, $20 million to actually complete construction on the Loop is going to be something that the Department of Transportation is going to look favorably upon because you received that planning grant. So very excited about that. It's kind of like hitting the lottery when you get one of these RAISE grants. This was your first time going after it and you got it. Many communities go after it for years and years and years and never get it. You all did it on your first try. So great work for the city of Beaverton in getting those funds. And then the Beaverton Shelter, Senators Merkley and Wyden were able to secure $3 million through the congressionally directed spending process for the Beaverton Shelter as well. So over $9 million for the city of Beaverton in federal funds in 2022. In addition, they were able to pass the Inflation Reduction Act, which included a lot of the environmental benefit and climate change and climate action programs that the city had been advocating for as well. So this is what your 2023 federal agenda looks like now. We've had a number of one-on-one conversations with city council, with the mayor, city staff, to put together some of your top priorities for the federal government, members of Congress, and the agencies. I just want to remind everybody that there are certain projects that are eligible at the federal level. There's always local match requirements for all of these programs. So we worked with you all to make sure that you all had a plan to fully fund these projects. The federal government typically likes to be the last dollars in for their grant programs and congressionally directed spending programs. And they also require local match, and there's certain eligibility requirements. So a lot of these projects are obviously consistent with what the city of Beaverton is looking to do, but also fits within what the federal government will fund. So these are the projects on here. There's CDS, means those earmark projects, and then in parentheses, the grant projects. We're going after agency funding for those grants. So the Loop, we're going to continue to go after CDS funding, earmark funding for the Loop. Every couple $1 million means another couple blocks of improvements in the downtown Loop. So we know that the congressional offices are very supportive of the Loop project, so we're going to continue to go after CDS funds for the Loop. It's a mobility, it's a safety project, it's a transformational project for the downtown of Beaverton. So very excited to continue to advocate for that project. Aquifer storage is an innovative way to look at water supply, especially in the summer months when water supply is lower. Aquifer storage allows you all to put water in a storage facility underground. You store it up during the winter months, and then you can let them go during the summer months when water isn't as available. We're looking at a FEMA grant for that. It's a pre-disaster mitigation fund at $4.5 million. Brownfield assessment, we have a pending application in through the Environmental Protection Agency to review some of the sites downtown to make sure that you all are aware of all the brownfield sites downtown and also the redevelopment opportunities as you all locate some of those brownfield in your downtown area. The Purple Pipe is a CDS request. It's another very innovative project for the city of Beaverton that you're looking at Purple Pipe to basically recharge some of your water aquifers in the city and to better sustain some of your water resources in the community. The Nonprofit Business Incubator is another grant opportunity that we're looking to find funds to operate the Nonprofit Business Incubator in Beaverton. And we're going to be looking for about $1 million to operate the program. And then one project that is in development, primarily because the county is taking the lead on this and looking at ways to address some of the crisis intervention, looking at ways that using mental health professionals rather than police officers in dealing with some of the crisis intervention challenges that you and many communities in the country are facing when it comes to mental health in the community. So that's another project that we're going to be working on. And once there's a budget around that and the county comes up with a broader plan, then we'll look to you all to see if we want to add that as an actual project on your federal agenda and add a dollar amount in terms of the requested ask. In addition to the projects, we have some policy items as well that we advocate for with your congressional delegation. Looking at FY24, that's the budget year that we're going to be working in the next year, looking to maintain and increase funding for housing, public safety, economic development, and brownfields redevelopment. Basically, trying to increase or maintain the programs that are available at the federal funding level, at the federal apparatus back here, and then you all go for those specific grant programs. So make sure that those programs are adequately funded back here in Washington. In addition to that, looking for additional affordable housing and homelessness assistance. This will help you all implement your diversity, equity, and inclusion plan. The sustainability, resilience, and climate action you all are trying to become energy independent by 2035. There's a number of opportunities back here that were created with the Inflation Reduction Act. So this will help you all fund some of the 90+ projects that are part of your Beaverton Climate Action Plan in 2023 and then moving forward. So we're looking forward to those opportunities as well. And then lastly, on the policy items, you're looking for broadband funding. And as of right now, basically at the federal level, the broadband access, internet access is really focused a lot on rural communities. And what the city is looking for is to make sure that the federal government also is considering suburban and urban areas when some of those resources are distributed at the federal level. So looking at broadband funding flexibility to make sure it's not just all focused on rural areas, but also suburban and rural. And we'll have some time to talk about these on question and answer. Really quickly, I don't want to get into the weeds here, but the Inflation Reduction Act passed in August. It is one of the biggest climate change bills that has ever passed in Congress and signed by the president. There are billions of dollars available for communities like Beaverton to fund the projects that you all have included in your climate action plan. There's the Climate Pollution Reduction Grant Program that can fund those projects. We're talking about community solar. We're talking about electric vehicle charging stations. We're talking about weatherization and conservation. A number of these programs that are created as grants through the Inflation Reduction Act, the city of Beaverton can take advantage of. I've heard that the building code adoption and implementation is a big priority for the city, and we're going to be looking at opportunities to get access to some of those federal funds as well. In addition to grants, there's tax credits, rebates, and other provisions that are actually available to local governments created in the Inflation Reduction Act when it comes to greenhouse gas reduction and emissions and trying to address the climate crisis. So we're going to be working with you all as these programs are stepped up in 2023. None of them are available now, but they will be over the first and second quarter of 2023. And then moving forward, we're going to try to make sure that you all can take advantage of some of these new programs that are created at the federal level. When it comes to the election, obviously, we had the election November 8th in 2022. The Democrats retained their majority on the Senate side. It went from a 50-50 split to a 51-49 majority for Democrats, which is actually a pretty big deal between 50-50 and 51-49, because now Democrats can control the budgets of the committees, they can control more committee actions, and they can send nominations and legislation to the floor without having the sign off of Republicans. In the 50-50 split agreement, Democrats always needed the Republicans to agree to anything in committee before it went to the floor. So now Democrats have a bit more control over the process in the Senate. In the House, the Republicans have a very narrow majority of 4 seats in the House of Representatives. And we are seeing the consequences of that narrow majority today, where Speaker-elect McCarthy is trying to become the next Speaker of the House of Representatives, and has not been able to, after 3 votes, not been able to secure that majority, secure that speakership yet. The House, what's funny about the House of Representatives is, or interesting to me, as a political nerd, is the House cannot do anything at all until they elect their Speaker of the House of Representatives. So right now we're on a 3rd vote, and Speaker McCarthy has not been able to land that. This is the first time in 100 years that we've seen something like this. And back in 1856, they actually had 2 months of votes to determine the Speaker of the House before they actually chose the Speaker. So I don't think it's going to go for 2 months, but it could go for a couple more days. And Speaker McCarthy, or future Speaker-elect McCarthy, or whoever is going to be the Speaker, he has his work cut out for him to try to secure that 218 vote majority to become the next Speaker of the House. So I'm not in the predicting game on this side of things. I do not know how he's going to get out of this. He's 20 of his Republican colleagues has voted against him for the last 3 rounds, and he needs to get that down to 4. And that's a very tough task. He's already given in a lot so far in terms of some of the rules changes that he has offered to some of these Freedom Caucus members, the more conservative members of the Republican caucus. But it sounds like he's got a ways to go. So we're keeping an eye on that. In terms of the Democratic leadership, it's been very interesting. So we went from an average age, so Speaker Pelosi kind of stepped down as Speaker, and the leadership of the Democratic Party stepped down. We went from an average age of 83 years old from the Democratic leadership to now Hakeem Jeffries and some of his other Democratic leaders. The average age now is 51 years old. Went from a kind of an older generation to a newer generation of Democratic leaders in the House of Representatives. So we're kind of turning the over a new chapter for the Democrats in the House of Representatives. When it comes to congressional outcomes that are important to the city of Beaverton, obviously Senator Wyden easily secured his 5th term as Oregon Senator and senior senator from the state. Congresswoman Bonamici sailed to re-election, and then you have a new Congresswoman, Andrea Salinas, who should be sworn in as of today, but she's not sworn in yet, so she's still Congresswoman-elect Salinas. And so you all actually have two members of the House that can help you back here in Washington, D.C. and help your priorities move forward. When it comes to the outlook for 2023, the city of Beaverton continues to be blessed by the seniority of your congressional delegation. Senators Wyden and Merkley are some of the most senior members of the Senate, and they are going to be able to help you in a number of ways and opportunities. So we will continue to engage with them and make sure that they understand the priorities that the city has. When it comes to the House, we're going to be not expecting too much when it comes to legislation. I think that the House is going to be focused a lot on oversight and investigations into the administration, but looking at ways to increase border security and addressing some of the crime issues across the country. We are excited that the congressionally directed spending program is going to continue in 2023. The Democrats were fully supportive of these congressionally directed spending process, but it was a little surprising that 2/3 of the Republican caucus also in the House supported maintaining the congressionally directed spending program in the House of Representatives. So back in 2010, when Republicans took over the House back then, they actually eliminated earmarks. But there's an overwhelming level of support from House Republicans to continue the process. That is, there's a lot of new guardrails that have been put on it, and it's one of the ways that House members can deliver for their districts. Rather than just having the Biden administration award all of these grant funds, members of Congress can direct some of these federal resources as well. In my opinion, they know their districts better than many of these bureaucrats here in Washington, D.C. And so they get to make some very minor, less than 1% of the federal budget towards congressionally directed spending. And then lastly, the 2024 presidential campaign has already kicked off. It's very early. Former President Trump declared his candidacy in late 2022, and I expect a flurry of announcements to happen within the first quarter of 2023 when it comes to current President Biden announcing that he's going to run again, which I do anticipate, or many other Republicans getting into the ring as well. So if you all are tired of election politics, I am sorry to announce that that is still going to be very active and present in our daily lives. So that's the big picture outlook for the city. I'm going to try to stop sharing. There we go. And so just, again, want to thank the mayor, council, for all of your help and support. The city of Beaverton has been one of the most, if not the most successful municipality in the state of Oregon in terms of going after CDS projects and grant projects. And it's just very clear that the innovation, the ideas, the creativity, and the hard work of you and your staff have really paid off for the city. And we look forward to continued success. So thank you for this opportunity, and look forward to any questions or comments on the federal agenda. And as I just to reiterate, the federal agenda is a working, living, breathing document that can be updated throughout the year. But what we're trying to do today is to get a general consensus around the federal agenda, and then it will be ultimately approved in 2 weeks at your next council meeting. So that's the primary reason for this presentation.
Thank you, Joel. I would almost believe that you tell all of your clients that they are that special and the best at what they do, but I have mayors call me all the time asking what Beaverton's special sauce is and how we're able to deliver so many projects and get funding across the line. And I actually, a lot of people know this, but the mayor of Scranton, Ohio is from Beaverton. Her parents live here. We're the same age. We have kids the same age. I helped her write her pitch to her city council a couple of weeks ago on why you should have a federal lobbyist and the way that they were doing it. And they used Beaverton as the model and passed for their first time money to get a federal lobbyist and why that's really important to them. I was thinking a little bit about our lobbying past. Now, Gwen has been our contract lobbyist longer than I've been an elected official, and she has worked on all of our state and local governments. And CFM only came in a few years into me serving because the council at the time was not happy with the lobbying firm that we had hired, and really we're looking for somebody with deep relationships and partnerships. And CFM came to the top of that list. And every time I'm in DC, Joel's connections, it's just very evident that he loves this work and he's able to do it. But I think adding Gwen to the mix of helping kind of connect our state lobbying and our federal lobbying together is the reason we're so successful at this work and being focused and going in. And that comes from understanding relationships with not only our federal delegation, but our state delegation, because it's as much about us and what we want as much as what they're willing to spend and fund. I will tell you the hardest thing for me to swallow as the mayor is not seeing broadband on this list. As Joel knows, as long as I've known him, broadband has been something I have been pushing and wanting to do. I sit on the U.S. Conference of Mayors task force on this. I've traveled. I've talked about every policymaker in the country about getting broadband funding to Beaverton. But it being so urban or rural focused, it really was taking up, after 2 rounds of not getting it, Joel had to rustle me into the corner and say, I think you need to let this go a little bit. And so I want you to know this is a big concession for me to not have it on our 2023 federal lobbying. It pains me to my core. What I am excited about, and I don't know, you probably know this as well, Joel, is the governor is creating a new position on her cabinet to deal with climate and the money coming into the state and how that person is going to work with local government. Broadband money came to the state the same way, and we couldn't figure it out fast enough to get it to local government. So the governor-elect is creating a special ombudsman position in her cabinet to deal nothing but federal money coming for climate. And so I think we're going to have a better working relationship with that incoming person, and our ability to deliver money to the state and now to the local level, I think is going to greatly improve. And that's something the council cares deeply about. I think the amount of water projects on this list is really indicative of where we are. I think water is the most nonpartisan issue we can deal with right now. We're seeing a lot of excitement at the state level on water issues too. I think it's a way to kind of cut through. And Beaverton is the envy, and I think, Councilor Tivnon can attest to this, and she's done a lot of our water the last couple years. We're the envy of cities around us because of our underground ASR wells. And that is a testament of council funding these positions over multiple decades. They're not easy, they're not cheap, they cost a lot of money, but I will tell you, in the event of Cascadia, we'll be the king of the mountain. We're the only ones that will have water, and making sure that we have pipes to deliver them is what a lot of these asks are around too. Even in very hot months, we will it to other cities because we're able to take it out of the ground. So while it's not always the most sexy to talk to people about water, we know what happens when water goes bad. We can look at cities that have not invested in water and then blame policymakers about why they didn't make that investment. So while this isn't the most sexiest of projects that going forward, it's one that I find that we're getting so much excitement from people around the state and the federal government on. I'm so excited to see it on this list. Councilor Hassan?
Yeah, quick follow-up question. You said broadband's not here, so it's on the agenda. Did you mean you wanted it in a different way, just for clarification?
I mean, it's on there. It's just not one of the projects that listed, because it's the only one we've not been able to have funded, and it doesn't make sense for us to continue. It's in the policy if money comes out, and the way the framework is designed, of course we could go after it. We can make adjustments. That's what's great about a framework versus specific things. But not to have a specific ask around broadband is just slightly painful.
Okay. So I was going to say, for our newer counselors, this is a big discussion, right? This is probably the second time this has come in front of us, or is it the first?
This is the first time we've done a work session style.
Okay,
In the
okay.
past, Joel has done a presentation, and then there's been sort of an acknowledgement that this is the agenda. But we really have tried to create parallel processes for the state and federal agenda development in this year in a way that we hadn't quite aligned in the past.
Okay. So what I want to say is this is our opportunity to really put our hands on like decisions that we're making on that could impact what happens. And we're making those decisions together. So really feeling confident, excited, committed. Some of these things we're marrying. We might be marrying them for a long time. I'm told the Loop will be married for a pretty long time, which is totally fine. I did want to bring up the Nonprofit Incubator Development Project. I'm going to be honest, I'm not ready to support that yet. Like, I have yet to understand what the previous $1 million is doing and going to, so I'm really comfortable not including that on this project list. I feel really strongly about crisis intervention teams. I think I've heard it a little bit enough from different folks, so I'd really like us to figure out what it looks like to pursue that. I do want to say, like, I want to be thoughtful about that not centered as much on policing and more on people safety and community safety and what that looks like. That's kind of, last piece. So in the presentation, the PowerPoint, it says affordable housing and homeless assistance, and then underneath that it says DEI plan. I want to be really thoughtful. That's not housing and homeless assistance, is not necessarily the DEI plan. I'd like to see that as a separate, blue colored thing. And I was just really quickly perusing the DEI plan, and I was seeing things like the outreach and engagement that we do across different languages, the youth access program for our libraries. I don't know what the grant funding availability and opportunities are, but have we reviewed our DEI plan in detail with staff to understand whether there could be some funding opportunities? So at minimum, I'd like to make sure we all as a council talk about, and Councilor Teeter's walking at a perfect time, making sure that we're adding a DEI sort of paragraph and maybe looking at the DEI plan. And I mentioned two things, which is is there reimbursement for translation or things that the cities do? I'm gonna be honest, I have no idea, so I'm being really vulnerable with you all right now. And then specifically, I have a lot of concerns around the Nonprofit Business Incubator Development Project, and I really want to see us get behind the crisis intervention team. Thanks.
Sorry,
Sure, let me-
Councilor Duggar. Go ahead.
Do you want me to?
Yeah.
So just a quick follow-up. One of the things that we always try to do when we're developing agendas, whether they're state or federal, is look at how we can have sort of land the plane, have continuity. Sometimes you can only get some amount of money. We can't get all the amount of money that we need, and so we have to have a couple of rounds. We also know that our delegation back in DC supports the nonprofit incubator, and once they were bought into it, they want to see it be successful, and they want to see it be completed. So in looking and drawing from staff feedback, it was, how are we doing? What do we need to take it to the next level of implementation and success? And it really was operational dollars, and those are things that largely will come from an earmark, I think. And so it's that combination. It's timing, continuing an investment, and continuing to work with a delegation on something that they are already supporting. So that's why that's there. I think in terms of the crisis intervention, the reason why it says in development is because of a timing issue. Because of the Bloomberg process that the city is going through, there may be some very innovative and interesting things that come out of that. We don't want to say, this is what it is, and this is exactly the amount of money we need, and only that. And then, oops, we want to retool it. So this is probably as close to a placeholder-y item as we've done, but it's not because we're questioning or uncertain about the crisis intervention team as a council priority. It's that we don't know quite what that looks like yet or what the price tag is for it, and we wanted to make sure it came in as a part of this agenda process so that when the mayor goes to DC in her next trip, which is in a couple of weeks, she's got the strength of council behind her in having those preliminary conversations. So that's the timing issue.
Okay. I want to just say, like, for the council to hear, I respect that maybe there is buy-in from the congressional delegation around the incubator development project. As a counselor, I have yet to buy into that, and so I support the $1 million that we got. I want to be really thoughtful about trying to get more if we haven't landed what OTBC or OSC is really starting to do for us. So I think that that's something that we need to really feel comfortable and maybe uncomfortable grappling with, is how we all feel about that. So I just want to make sure that you all understand that. You know, we're married to the loop. I was like, hey, and I'm okay with that too. So just know that it's important that we're able to have this discussion, because this is what we're looking at for the next year in terms of what Mayor will be advocating for in DC on our behalf, more or less. So, thanks.
Councilor Duggar, I'm sorry I skipped over you. I'm sorry. All right, Council President.
Thanks, Mayor. Hi, Joel. Hi, Gwen. Thank you for the presentation tonight. I think through the legislative priority process and just learning more about the advocacy work that you do to help us for, our legislative agenda, I've learned just the importance of us being really focused in our asks. And I think it's what's led, what's led to our success is being really consistent and really focused in our asks. And I really appreciate it. I'm sorry, Mayor, that broadband isn't, there in the way that you would like it to, but, at work, we talk a lot about failing fast. And it's like, hey, if that's not the project, let's go after the things that we can bring those funds into our community for. So I really appreciate the pivot. I feel like this has evolved through our one-on-one, so I really feel good about what's here. I feel like the influence of the council is present on this list of projects. And so, yeah, I'm really content with the list that we're seeing. And I really am grateful for that placeholder of the crisis intervention team. We heard from the sheriff's office tonight, this is going to be such a critical program for our area. We know that there's some models in the area that we can work after, but what I love is that this is saying, Beaverton's approach might be different, and we want a safe space for that work group to figure it out together. So I'm really grateful for this list, and I hope you bring home all that money for us.
Thank you. Councilor Tivnon.
Yeah, just a quick follow-up on the crisis intervention team. And this is me still getting up to speed on the cadence and the rhythm and the tidal nature of lobbying at the federal level. Is there a window in which we need to get the details hammered out for the fiscal year, or is this something we can be going all the way to December of 2023? What does that look like? And that's for the benefit of everyone here who might not know that answer.
It's a great question. So the timeline, I know the timeline here is you are going to need to submit a project to the congressional delegation in likely March or early April. But my understanding is the timeline that the county is working on, that are going to have that crisis mitigation ideas and budget and suggestions before then. So yes, this is something that needs to happen in Q1 of 2023 to submit and participate in the congressionally directed spending program by that late March, early April timeframe. So yeah, we need to move pretty quickly. And if it's not ready by then, we might have to do it next year.
Okay, got it. And then just to double down on what the mayor said about water, my brother lives in Houston, Texas, and was in the big freeze that happened a couple of years ago when their entire electrical grid across the state went down, and pretty much everyone lost water. And he said the scariest thing he's ever dealt with when it comes to mass events like that was turning on the tap and nothing coming out of it. And it's not just for our own resiliency, it's also for our neighboring cities that are going to need that reservoir water. We'll be able to be in a position to help them out as well. So it's really exciting that the investments we're making today for our children and our children's children and so on. So, but thank you for answering my question, and I'll yield my time.
Councilor Duggar.
Gwen, Joel, thanks as always. Couple questions. First one I think might be a little easier because I think it's more of a process question. So we secured $6 million for the loop this year. We're going for $4 million in 23. How do we settle on that number? Was that just where we are right now, and that's what we can realistically spend? Because I know this is going to be a multi-year project with probably 10 millions of dollars, and I just want to know how we settle on that. Can we have more?
Yeah, so $4 million is kind of on the high end of congressionally directed spending awards. So we're asking for as much as we can potentially get through that process. So yes, we could ask for more. The city is probably going to need $20 to $30 million more. But in this particular process, this is a reasonable ask of the congressional offices that they can deliver. And we're asking on the higher end of what they can deliver. So $4 million is a pretty big CDS award.
What about $4 million each from Andrea and Suzanne?
Well, we're going to be asking both of them for sure.
But that's also not Congresswoman Salinas' district, so she's probably unlikely to give us money for a project not
really
in her
nice,
district.
right?
Yeah, you know.
At the same time, Councilor Duggar, Joel had mentioned earlier the RAISE grants, and so there's RAISE planning and there's RAISE construction. The ballpark for RAISE construction is the one you're talking about.
Okay.
It's a lot more money. And so what we're trying to do is build a little bit of layering and redundancy so that we can get as much done as quickly as possible. That planning grant, that's for the entire loop project. The $4 million that just got earmarked is, if you think of it almost like a demonstration, like we're going to work it all out for a block or two. And then hopefully another block or two. And by that time, the planning will be done and we can go after the whole Megillah, what's left in the RAISE construction grant. So part of this is what can we do? What's the timing? How can we advance this as swiftly as possible with the resources and the funding streams that are available?
Okay, yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. So my bigger question, I love the work as far as congrats to the mayor and everyone who had a hand in working. Love the framework. I think it makes a lot of sense. My question is particularly with the kind of generational spending that's happening now, which likely won't be available in the next few years with the IRA and things like that. Are there things beyond our council priorities that we should be targeting, right, for grants, right? That the city's already contributing through our normal funding mechanisms, that these monies are available beyond the things that we're listing. You know, should we be going after those? Is that too complicated? It seems like because of the generational aspect of the IRA and things like that. In particular, I was looking at the presentation, some of the, I think it was the tax incentives and the rebates and things like that. I'm like, there are tons of projects that I know that are ongoing in the city that probably could use some of that money. And we're already contributing locally, are part of it. So bigger question, beyond our priorities, are there things we should be kind of low-hanging fruit?
Yes. Joel, you want to give them the details?
Yeah, I'll start and then Gwen, you can add on. Absolutely. So the IRA programs, there's going to be a lot of opportunities for the city of Beaverton to go after, whether it's grants, tax credits, rebates. We just don't know exactly how those programs are going to be written yet. So it's kind of like we know that you have 93 climate action projects that are going to be likely eligible for funding. Maybe not all of them, but many of them. But we kind of have to wait to see what the Department of Energy, EPA comes up with in terms of the actual programmatic notice of funding opportunities. And then, yes, I think we're going to be working with you, work with council, the mayor, and staff we'll be adding projects. This is a unique and historic opportunity with the Inflation Reduction Act when it comes to climate change projects and programs. And Beaverton is ahead of the curve when it comes to, you're one of the few communities in Oregon that actually has a climate plan that will be able to take advantage of these. So yes, there will be more opportunities. We know the 93 projects that are on your climate action plan, and we're going to be able to add projects once we know exactly what these notice of funding opportunities look like.
Okay, so essentially the year-end report will look a little different than what this initial report is, because they'll be okay. Perfect.
The federal agenda is kind of a work in progress. It's based on what funding opportunities we know of as of today, but those funding opportunities are going to change over the next 3 to 6 months. So we'll be working with you and your staff to add climate projects that have already been part of your climate action plan and program. So it won't be surprising, but we just need to kind of focus in on them a little bit more as those programs become available and we know exactly what will be eligible.
Well, I think the other three things for council to consider in that is one, tax credits are new. Think about when you get a tax credit, you got to front the money and then get it back, which is a very unusual way governments almost don't do it. So when we're thinking about our budget conversations with the city manager, this is something we have to be prepared to think about, because if we're not in the financial position to take advantage of these because of our financial situation, it's going to be challenging. Two, the governor recognizes this is historic spending by creating this cabinet position. And this is Senator Wyden's probably marquee legislation that this is the thing he's most proud of. I mean, he came and visited with Gwen and I and was like, where's your list? Let's get it funded. So I think Oregon's in the best position possible since it was from our senator down. So I think we're going to be in the best opportunity, but it's going to be the council. We have to put ourselves in the ability to take advantage of it.
Yeah, you said it better than I could, because I was ultimately getting to I want to make sure in prep for our budget conversations in the next few months that we're thinking about this, right? Like taking this free money, but it's going to take local matches and things like that.
Yeah,
thank you.
Local match is going to be very important to this as well, for sure.
Councilor Kimmy.
Yeah, thank you, Gwen, and thank you, Joel, for extensive work. I know it's just a few pages here, but it takes a lot of time and effort to put it into such a concise pages. The question that I have is that regards to the nonprofit incubator, my understanding is do we have $500,000 funded or like $1 million so far?
From the federal, it was 500,000. On the state, it was 500,000. So it's a total of $1 million, but from different sources.
Okay, so state and different. So are we going after the state for the new funds, or is different?
It's different. Again, because the the pots of money are different and they're processed differently, we were really going through the ARPA earmarks that were available through the state at that time. They're no longer available.
Okay.
The congressional earmark process is still available.
Okay, I get it now. And I read up on, was a page or two about our initial application for the grant when we first got our first grants approved, that OTBC at that time was the, entity who will receive the grant. Mm-hmm. After seeing that application, I realized that after the fact, but I had reservations regards to transparency in a way that it was already decided before we gave chance to maybe other organizations that's local who's been working with the communities before. That happened before my tenure here. So, but that was the question I have. And another one was, it was when I met OTBC, they didn't know that they were receiving grants until after the fact. So they didn't have a plan. So then we're asking for another $1 million earmarked for Oregon Startup Center, which I have really no problem if they do a good job. But on the application, it mentions refugee and immigrant and small business owners, women business owners also. Mm-hmm. But they have no experience working with refugees or immigrants, even though it's mentioned in the application. So just hoping that, does this have to be designated to a certain entity, or it could be something else? Or can we get specific plan to how we're going to use the money? Because so far my understanding is that they don't know yet. So that's my question. I don't want to be limited to the organization where we might not be happy with the outcome or the process. But if it's earmarked and we cannot move the money, and our hands might be tied, that's the concern I have. Because it takes a unique entity to work with the immigrant refugee communities. And nonprofit means it's usually the community organizations. So I want to give a fair chance to the local community organizations to have a say or have access to this fund. But this is operational, which means it will be used up by one Oregon Startup Center. So I don't know if you get the gist of my concern or what I'm saying. And then we are also, Beaverton City is also funding OTBC or Oregon Startup Center annually. So then maybe there's a redundancy to our funds going into one specific entity where I still have questions about how it's helping Beaverton taxpayers. So then if you could answer that question, that'd be wonderful.
So there are a couple of different questions, Councillor Kenny, and
Yes.
so trying to unpack them in the right place. Ultimately, as you talked about earlier, Beaverton City Council is going to be going into a priority setting session that is not only dealing with budget, but it's dealing with the specific priorities and goal setting. As a general political rule, councils can always decide what their priorities are and if those priorities are changing or rising up or lowering. From a function of a council adopted priority, like the Loop, like the nonprofit incubator, we pursue resources in order to make it successful, and those are resources that go to the city of Beaverton. The city of Beaverton then has the relationships and moves that money. And so we have the accountability, and as always, work with the city manager and staff to ensure outcomes that reflect what the Beaverton City Council has prioritized. What we are trying to do with this earmark is say, in order for any new creation, and the nonprofit incubator is something that is really a unique goal that Beaverton City Council has set, there is not only the sort of structural leasing set up, but then there's also the operating. Are you giving that sort of stability for the year 1 to 3 so that it really can do the supportive work for nonprofits that are coming up and being grown in Beaverton? And that's what we're trying to do. So fair questions, they cannot be resolved through a federal agenda discussion, but I think the question at hand is, this is the proposal for what we have understand the need is right now, and that it will provide that support for the years 1 to 3 in terms of operation.
So to clarify it, as I said, I don't want to be tied down to an organization. As a city, maybe there's, this is probably the best organization. I'm just saying that we gotta have more opportunities for the local nonprofits to maybe have a say in it. But then, maybe Jenny can answer.
I think I actually can help you a little bit. Okay, and Councillor Tivnon could chime in as well. I want to make sure, that we correct a statement, or maybe I misunderstood you. Okay. The Oregon Startup Center knew they were getting these funds because they co-authored this with us, and so if that's the impression you got, we should probably have a conversation with them. But part of, I will tell you from a structural the person that goes and pitches projects, they have a certain amount of money for congressional directed spending. So if I'm going in saying, I need you to give us money for this, it's got to be kind of a plan, and it's got to have water, it's got to float and pass the SNP test. If I go in and say, I want money for an unknown project of unknown size to do unknown things, why would they take part of their $14 or $15 million and do it? So when we put together, with the past council put together a group of people to talk about the nonprofit incubator, they were most certainly in the room because we had funded them. And quite honestly, we would not have gotten it if we didn't have a partner lined up. It would have been too big of a risk. And so because the city had a pre-existing relationship with them, we were able to get it. And so if we hadn't had that, I can guarantee you we would have not got this money. And it's the same with the state level ARPA funds. And so I know Councillor Tivnon's been serving on their board, so I don't know if you have any.
And I'm rolling off as a liaison. I believe Councillor Duggar is going to be rolling on, and it basically intersects with the council in ways that we can help inform how it operates. And the name changed, the branding around it changed just this last year from the Oregon Technology Business Center to the Oregon Startup Center to better reflect the for-profit side, which is what it is at this point. That it started as like open source technology and tech companies and is now moving into products and food oriented types of businesses, and it's a much larger thing. And it's also the Oregon Startup Center, so the boundaries of it can go beyond Beaverton, but it is headquartered here, and the Beaverton Startup Challenge is specifically to try and coax businesses to headquarter within Beaverton, even if they scale out of it. As far as the nonprofit side goes, that's a whole other animal, and it's still in the works in terms of what it would look like, how the funds would be used. I know that they will be interacting with the city, coming forward with presentation and talking about a framework for how it would function. There would be a separate board. There would be, I think, room to have conversations over what experts in nonprofits are involved in helping to inform and shape what it looks like, especially in terms of including communities of color, women, immigrants, refugees, and making sure that this is really reflective of what the council wants. But that was, from my experience, serving as a liaison for 12 months. I think it would be really helpful for each counselor to get a better sense through talking with the folks that are administering Oregon Startup Center right now, just to have a better idea of it. It's a big, meaty topic, and it takes a while to wrap your head around, especially when you take something that was one thing and is now kind of morphing into something that is going to be bigger, and one side is profit, one side is not for profit. So I think we're breaking new ground, and it's pretty unprecedented, and there really is no such thing as a nonprofit incubator in any other city the way we're doing it. So we might be doing something that could serve as a model for others as well. So I think there's going to be a lot of scrutiny, as there should be, on something like this to make sure that we're doing it well.
To build on that, I think what was important about it, this is an innovative idea, a nonprofit business incubator, but the reason OTBC, one of the reasons we were successful is because OTBC had such a good reputation with the congressional delegation that they knew that they've done really good work in developing entrepreneurs and jobs and workforce development. So working through OTBC was actually, I think, a very strategic decision to give credibility to the nonprofit business incubator ask at the end of the day. So that's kind of how it came to be, and I think that's one of the reasons why it was successful in actually getting funding at the congressional level.
Yeah, thank you. I guess we'll have more deeper conversations later on, but that's good. Thank you.
Councilor Teeter.
Yes, thanks. I think I'm on board with a lot of this, and I know this is my first meeting, so I'm kind of coming into this as there's already been a lot in motion. I do think the funding for the Oregon Startup Center is the one where I have the most hold up, and I think maybe it's just an area where I need to learn more, connect more with that group. Councilor Tivnan's comments helped me work through some of the concerns that I had about making sure it's representative of the community, and making sure there's just a qualified board and leadership crew of experts who can help guide it through and help it reflect our city council values and priorities. And I know Councilor Duggar will have a good eye on that as we keep going forward. I am curious, we're trying to go after this funding here. Do we expect any additional funds from the city to go into this beyond what we're already giving to the Oregon Startup Center? Do we know that?
With respect to the incubator?
Yes.
So my goal is no.
Okay.
And that's one of the reasons why this ask is so important, as the mayor said, so they can get their footing and have stability, and that we could work over time to be able to ensure that there's resources so that they could be self-sustaining. Right now, I say no only because the council is going to be going into some serious budget discussions, and this is something that I don't think in perpetuity we could hold on to and continue to fund. So it's important that we have additional resources so that we can get it going in the correct direction so that it's not dependent on the general fund.
Okay, yeah, thank you. That is part of the reason why I asked that question, because I know we're going to have some hard conversations to have, or hard decisions to make, and I don't want to be hamstrung even more than we are. One point that I do want to share about our own my own priorities. I would love if we can support more Beaverton-based nonprofits out of the direction that we're headed in. I saw a news article that a lot of the funding winners from the Oregon Startup Center were not based in Beaverton recently, and that kind of hurt because we fund them so much. So I would like to see a more Beaverton-based focus for the nonprofit aspect of this. Otherwise, I'm supportive of the federal agenda. I do want to make one comment about the climate and sustainability section. It mentions support for electric vehicles and public transit. I would love to see a couple words about either active transportation or non-automotive transportation added in there, just so it encompasses all the different modes of movement that we've got here. Thank you.
Councillor Hassan. And Councillor Tipnon, did you have additional comments?
Oh, no.
Yep, Councillor Hassan.
I just wanted to add, just because I'm probably counting so that the lobbyists can make decisions. I didn't hear a ton of concern around Oregon Startup Center, and I want to be super clear. I don't not support. I just want to understand what the first $1 million that we've given has gone through, and maybe those are more side conversations that Jenny can help us facilitate. I do want to make sure that we're in alignment, that we all support crisis intervention team, or whoever wants to thumbs up that they support crisis intervention team, and then some specific language around including the DEI plan in the policy agenda. So I'm seeing head nods, but I guess I can just ask for the sake of...
I don't think we actually need to do that. People are saying they're supportive and it's listed, so I think pulling things off and voting, unless there's a disagreement, I think it's not procedurally warranted in this situation.
Perfect, thanks.
Any other comments? So just as how this will work, it will come back to us similar to what just happened with the state and local agenda, but with there's a couple suggestions that people wanted, and I think that's easy around language, because as a reminder, like beyond the projects, it's a framework, and that framework gives us the flexibility. So the broader the framework language is, the easier it is for the government affairs team to do things, or if something comes out of the sky. And think about ARPA and all these other fundings came out of nowhere, and because there was broad framework in the city, we were able to move and pivot. So that's why the framework piece is so important, because we actually don't know what's going to come out of the other end. New people are being sworn into office, new bills and stuff are being created. And so a word or two, we can add words or two, but I just want you to rest assured, like we know that mental health is important and climate is important, and whether specific words are in there is not going to stop us from going after funding. But I do understand that some of these words are important to council, so Gwen will work to add them, so when it comes back, you'll see those suggestions in it. And then I will be with Joel in DC in 10 days working on some of this work now that we kind of have a good idea of the direction we're going. Ms. Baldwin, and do you need anything else from council?
No, thank you very much. Appreciate the dialogue.
Awesome. I need to take a 5-minute break. Can we come back at, let's say, 8:28? Thanks. Are on to our public hearing section of the agenda. Tonight we're holding a public hearing regarding application number ANX 2022-0004, CPA 2022-0008, and ZMA 2022-0008 to annex property to the city, assign the RMC residential mixed-C zoning district on the zoning map, and assign the lower density neighborhood designation on the comprehensive plan map for tax lot 2301 of Washington County Tax Association or Assessor's Map 1S13055. I now call to order a public hearing. Before we move into the substance of the hearing, I'll ask the city attorney to cover some of the preliminary legal matters.
Thank you, Mayor. The hearing will proceed as follows. After the preliminary legal matters, city staff will make a presentation. Then members of the public will have an opportunity to speak for up to 3 minutes each. Finally, there will be time for response or rebuttal to the public testimony by staff. Council members may ask questions of staff, applicants, or anyone else who testifies. Anyone wishing to speak at this hearing should follow the instructions included on tonight's agenda. If you've joined the meeting by phone, you can enter *9 to let the city recorder know that you wish to speak. Alternatively, if you join this meeting online, you can let the city recorder know you wish to speak by clicking on the raise hand feature. Now I will cover the preliminary legal matters. The applicant has the burden of proving that the applications are consistent with the Beaverton Development Code, the Comprehensive Plan, and any applicable Beaverton Code criteria. The criteria that must be addressed in this hearing are Metro Code Section 3.09.045, Beaverton Development Code Chapter 40.97, and Beaverton Comprehensive Plan Section 1.5. Any testimony that speakers present must be directed at these criteria or at some other criteria in the code or the comprehensive plan that the speaker believes should apply to this decision. Failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to allow the council and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals on that issue. In addition, failure of the applicant to raise constitutional or other issues relating to the proposed conditions of approval with sufficient specificity to allow the city to respond to the issue precludes an action for damages in circuit court. Only those who submit written comments or give oral testimony will have standing to appeal this decision. Do any council members wish to declare a potential or actual conflict of interest or bias? Please let the record show there are none. Do any council members wish to report any site visits or ex parte contacts? Please let the record show there were no responses. Does any member of the audience wish to question the impartiality of any council member? Please let the record show that there are none. Does anyone wish to challenge the jurisdiction of the council to hear this matter? Again, the record should show that there was no response. Mayor, that concludes the legal matters. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's proceed with the staff presentation.
Good evening, Mayor and Councilors. I'm Aaron Harris with the Community Development Department. This evening's public hearing is for a proposed annexation, as well as a comprehensive plan and zoning map changes for one tax lot identified as Washington County Tax Lot 1S130DD02301, located along Southwest Emerald View Street. Staff notes that there are minor changes to the PowerPoint from what was posted and provided to Council in order to fix some minor typos and better highlight staff's questions to Council more prominently. The questions for the City Council this evening are shown here. Question 1. Does City Council support the proposed annexation? And question 2, does Council support the proposed comprehensive plan amendment and zoning map amendments? I will provide an overview of the proposal on the following slides. The proposed annexation is owner initiated and involves one parcel. The total proposed annexation area is 0.11 acres. This slide provides an overview of the comprehensive plan amendment and zoning map amendment changes. Pursuant to Table 1, Section 1.5.2, Chapter 1 of the comprehensive plan, the proposal is subject to a Type 1 non-discretionary comprehensive plan amendment and zoning map amendment. The current Washington County land use district for the property is R6, residential 6 units per acre. Table 1 indicates the appropriate comprehensive plan map designation as lower density neighborhoods and the zoning map designation as RMC, residential mixed C. This slide shows the review criteria applicable to the proposal. The review criteria is located in the Metro Code, the Beaverton Development Code, and the Beaverton Comprehensive Plan. Staff recommends approval of ANX 2022-0004 for annexation of the single parcel identified as Washington County Tax Lot 2301. In addition, staff recommends approval of CPA 2022-0008 and ZMA 2022-0008 for the comprehensive plan map designation and the zoning map designation for Tax Lot 2301. This concludes staff's presentation, and I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
So if this is your first hearing with us, this is the time where you could ask the staff questions. It's not a time to talk about how you're going to vote. So any clarity questions from staff, this is the section to do it. Okay. Seeing none, we'll now hear testimony from the public. Is there any testimony from the public?
Anything online?
No one is rushing the dais?
We do not have
okay.
anyone online, Mayor.
Okay, there appears to be no members of the public who want to speak on this matter tonight. We'll move into final comments from staff. Did the staff or city attorney have any further comments or clarification regarding this application?
No, Mayor.
No, Mayor.
Okay. Last time, council, burning questions? Seeing none, this public hearing is closed. The council should take up the annexation application and ordinance. Then if there's annexation as approved, the council can consider the application ordinance of the zoning and comprehensive plan map amendments. For the annexation, the council may either approve the application and adopt the proposed ordinance or take other action. But if other action is proposed regarding the ordinance, the motion must include specific direction as to what the other action is. Is there a motion relating to the annexation?
Yes, Mayor. I move to approve application ANX 2022-0004 and adopt an ordinance annexing one tax lot identified as Washington County Tax Lot 1S130DD02301, located along Southwest Emerald View Street, withdrawing the property from the Tualatin Valley Water District, Washington County Enhanced Sheriff's Patrol District, and Washington County Urban Road Maintenance District, and and adding the property to the Sexton Mountain Neighborhood Association Committee, ANX 2022-0004.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. Any discussion from the council? All right, seeing none, we'll vote on the motion. Will the recorder call the roll?
Councillor Duggar.
Yes.
Councillor Hartmeyer Prigg.
Yes.
Councillor Hassan.
Yes.
Councillor Kimmy.
Yes.
Councillor Teeter.
Yes.
Councillor Tivnon.
Yes.
Mayor Beatty.
Yes.
Ordinance is adopted unanimously.
Now that the annexation has been approved, the council may either approve the zoning and comprehensive plan application and adopt the proposed ordinance, or give specific direction to take other action. Is there a motion regarding the application and the ordinance? And does the council member wish to make an ordinance?
Yes, Mayor, I wish to make a motion. I move to approve applications CPA 2022-0008 and ZMA 2022-0008 and adopt an ordinance amending the comprehensive plan land use map and the zoning map for one tax lot identified as Washington County Tax Lot 1S130DD02301, located along Southwest Emerald View Street, CPA 2022-0008, ZMA 2022-0008.
Second.
All right. I'm sorry, Councillor Teeter. You're going to have to learn to be faster. That was seconded by Councillor Duggar. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right. Seeing none, will the recorder call the roll?
Councillor Tivnon.
Yes.
Councillor Teeter.
Yes.
Councillor Kimmy.
Yes.
Councillor Hassan.
Yes.
Councillor Hartmeyer Prigg.
Yes.
Councillor Duggar.
Yes.
Mayor Beatty.
Yes.
Ordinance is adopted 7-0.
All right, if you are watching and you would like to appeal this decision, you must appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals in accordance with LUBA's rules and any applicable provision in the Beaverton Development Code. Okay. Okay, so the next thing on the agenda is the first readings. And just so you know, what I'm about to do seems tedious, but it is a huge improvement from how we used to do this, in which the council had to take a vote to agree to read it by title only in a future meeting. And I will tell you, there was a counselor one time, to make us all suffer, voted against it, and someone had to sit here and read like 60 pages of a document. So that's part of what the charter reform fixed, was this next step, but this is still a little bit of legal requirements. So on January 17th, 2023, during the regularly scheduled city council meeting, a public hearing will be held on an ordinance adding Beaverton Code Chapter 3.03, reimbursement districts relating to the procedure to create and administer reimbursement district. On January 17th, 2022, during the regularly scheduled city council meeting, a public hearing will be held regarding an ordinance annexing 2 tax lot at 140 and 170th Southwest 137th Avenue, the adjacent right-of-way of Southwest 137th Avenue, and the additional right-of-way of portions of Southwest 137th and Southwest Linda Lane, withdrawing the properties in the adjacent right-of-way from the Tualatin Valley Water District, Washington County Enhancement Sheriff Patrol, and the Washington County Urban Road Maintenance District, and adding the properties in adjacent right-of-way to Five Oaks Triple Creek Neighborhood. Committee ANX 2022-005. Also on January 17th, 2023, during the regularly scheduled city council meeting, a public hearing will be held regarding an ordinance amending the comprehensive land use map and zoning map for 2 tax lots at 140th Southwest 137th Avenue and 170th Southwest 137th Avenue, and abutting right-of-way located along Southwest 137th Avenue, CPA 2022-001/ZMA 2022-009. And with that, our last item on the agenda is council new business. Any new business before the council this evening? Councilor Husson?
Yeah, so I wanted to bring up, I know that we have been seeing a lot of mayor proclamations, which is awesome, and I know that Jenny, or the city manager, knows that we're trying to think of a policy where the council also is able to issue proclamations, and while that continues to live in the place that it might not come to us right away, I was approached by a couple of the Black community leaders that asked if we would issue a proclamation as a council for Black History Month. So I'd love to get your support for that. If Jenny heard that from enough of us, I think that she'd be happy to work with whomever is appropriate to help make that happen.
Well, first, I'm sure council is supportive of doing this, and then I can go back and determine what the best process is to put a council proclamation together. Is your ask also for us to look at a ceremonial policy in order to do that?
Thank you. Yes, I would like us to. Thank you, Jenny. She's got my back. I'd love for us to start some sort of policy that helps us understand how we do these, generally speaking.
Okay. With that, any other council new business?
I have a quick one.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Maybe we could have some snack.
I am already working on that.
Yes, please.
Someone hinted that to me.
Just a little bit, yeah.
I can make that happen.
Thank you.
That used to happen all the time, so I would take it personal that
you
guys
just
joined
ruined
us.
it for me right there.
Yeah, so we used to normally have snacks, so I don't know when that slipped away. No, it wasn't me. All right, with that, I'm going to close tonight's meeting. Thank you.